from the hit 1970s sitcom The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
We hope an agreement can be reached soon because after months of back and forth, we just need a straight answer here.
Healy noted that the brown velvet artifact would be a welcome addition to its media wing, which boasts a robust collection, including several iconic Minnesota pieces.
We have the fence from Grumpy Old Men. We acquired the puck from the Mighty Ducks several months ago.
Healy and his team made their first bid in December of 2012 and have cycled through 5 rounds of negotiations, reportedly tripling their initial offer in an urgent attempt to secure the sale.
It's not every day that an artifact of this significance comes on the market and went... Oh my God, it's him. It's him, okay? Hello, sir. What would you say if I went up another 2?
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Well, what's up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie on the Free Talk Live network. Coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash with fees of less than a penny per transaction. Dash is made for spending. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies, and they are widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And remember, if you guys want to truly chat privately with people, we are part owners of an app called Freedom Chat. You should check out Freedom Chat, end-to-end encryption, private chat, no data stored whatsoever. You can find out more about that by going to freedomchat.com/GML if you are interested. Well, this is Liberty at Night. Of course, we talk to you guys every single Tuesday night on the Free Talk Live network as Liberty at Night, but every single day of the week, we also go by the name Good Morning Liberty. So you might hear us reference that because that's what we are every single day of the week. In fact, 1,393 episodes so far on your favorite podcast app. You can watch us on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or Odyssey and listen on all of your favorite podcast app. Got a lot of interviews coming up this week talking about the election. Of course, we are 1 week out from this election. I'm excited right now. I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve or maybe the week before Christmas, just wanting to know what I'm going to get. Personally, I'd rather see Trump win this. But I know as a libertarian, I'm going to be disappointed either way. I would just like to see Trump win this one. We will see. The polls are insanely close, which we will talk about here soon. And maybe even some conspiracy theories. I don't know, not conspiracy. I hate the word conspiracy theories because they use that to discount things that could be true, right? The entire thing is a conspiracy theory today, yes. Except for none of it really is a conspiracy theory. Well, some of it will be.
We live in a simulation. Aliens are real. Clearly, you can tell by the pyramids.
Trump is an actual reincarnation of Hitler.
Yes.
We know that.
And Russia's involved somehow with aliens. And, why do you think Snowden's in Russia?
This is Good Morning Liberty. We talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning every single day of the week when we want to. Smash follow, subscribe, hit the like, hit the share, hit the repost, hit all those buttons, leave a rating and review, tell your friends, your family members, and your children, their children. Go to your neighbor's house and ask to speak to their children and tell them that they need to listen to Good Morning Liberty every single day of the week. Okay?
Yeah.
We had a weekend, man.
Hey, one other thing, real quick.
Okay.
I just want people to know, because I know this stuff.
Okay.
Like, I know. The earth is flat and round. Flat and round.
You're really doing this.
At the same time.
Both of them.
Yes.
It's flat while it's round.
Everyone else is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Just walk around, dude. You're telling me you've never seen a flat piece of ground? You know,
we will return to, after I get some data on this. I like to see the data.
Hey, so far the Fed Haters Club, I see Conspiracy Theory Monday would be fun.
It would be fun.
So
we'll have to prep. We got to bring the proper conspiracy theories. An update for you.
But I want to talk about it like it's real, though.
Yeah,
you know, and so everyone on the show needs to know.
I promise. After the election, we'll start doing that. I promise. Yeah.
I'm just gonna weave.
Yeah, it's a weave.
I'm gonna weave.
That's what it is. It's a weave
into it.
What's up, everyone watching live on Twitter and YouTube and all that? This is Today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate everyone who's sticking around. 66% to 34% on Polymarket for Trump over Harris. Now, Republicans are going to be crazy confused when Trump hits 66.6%. Let me tell you that. I can't wait to hear all the excuse making when he finally hits that. But once we hit 69, everything will be fine. That's what they say.
Everything ended up fine.
That's what they will say. Now, that's Polymarket, of course, a skewed Republican-fueled betting market, and so we can't pay attention to that. The Real Clear Politics average now has Trump at +1 as of this morning. This day in history, by the way, Biden was up 7.5 and Clinton was up 4.6 in the Real Clear Politics average. If you judge by those two elections, Trump will win in a landslide. I don't pay too much attention to Real Clear Politics. They don't weed out really any polls. They kind of accept all of them. And so that's why I pay a little bit more attention to 538. And I made this chart based on the 538 updated polling. I've been showing you guys, my spreadsheet and my data. And today I was like, make it a chart. And so we made it a chart. This is Trump versus the opponent. And this is half of the 2020 polling miss from 538. What you can see on this chart, nationally at this time, or nationally before the election, Biden was up over 8 points. He ended up winning by just over 4 points. Okay, so if that same swing happens again, Trump will win the national. And then you see, same thing with Pennsylvania, Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia. If the same miss happens, it would have him winning if half of the miss happens, it would have him winning the popular vote and all of the swing states, and maybe even flipping some others. I saw something showing a poll showing that New Hampshire, that Trump was leading in New Hampshire. And so that's probably one poll, so take that however you want to take it.
He might flip the whole United States.
I know, over, which is easy because it's flat,
Yeah.
So that's easy.
Well, it's floating in the ocean, like Guam. If you can tip Guam over.
Like Puerto Rico, which apparently is a floating pile of garbage.
Yeah.
I am offended by that joke because islands don't float. We already know that.
Exactly.
That's a ridiculous thing to say. It's about Puerto Rico.
It's a structured pile of garbage.
It's attached to the earth. It's not floating, and the garbage is on top. Okay, get
Everyone
it right.
Knows this.
Get it right. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. There's that chart. And why don't we go to some updates from the weekend? Now, it was a jam-packed weekend. It started off with Trump on Rogan.
Friday night.
I'll be 100% honest with you. It was kind of boring, in my opinion. And you have not seen a ton of clips of Trump on Rogan floating around the internet, at least not anymore. Now they're all about Puerto Rico and Latinos and stuff like that. We'll talk about that soon. Trump did talk about the income tax for all the libertarians listening. By the way, half of Good Morning Liberty has endorsed Donald Trump's presidency.
Endorsed might be a stretch.
What's the difference? Isn't voting an endorsement?
Not necessarily.
Really?
Were you saying I can't be critical of the guy?
You can be critical. I have not decided, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
You guys should hear the private conversations we have, though. Yeah.
I will say this probably
Nate
first
tries
time.
to save face on the show.
No, first time on the podcast, I'll say this. Maybe some people will be disappointed. I'm thinking about it. I am. I don't think I'll do it, but I am thinking about it because I hate the left more and more every single day. And I want to see them lose so bad that I could do it. We'll see. I am going to go vote. I'm going to the booth because I didn't realize my representative was that crazy Justin Jones guy with the megaphone in the state capitol talking about all kinds of dumb stuff all the time. I didn't know until he sent something to my house. And that's the only reason I'm going to vote now.
Against him.
So thank you for sending that out to my house. I appreciate that.
You really hate black people, huh? Wow.
That's what it is. Oh, loud. How loud. I got to go vote against them. And the transit tax. Got to vote against the transit tax. You're not in Davidson County, are you? So it doesn't even matter. Good Lord. I'm getting screwed every which way, man. Here's Trump talking about the income tax.
Tariffs. Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were we serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful.
Very beautiful. I always remember the beautiful speaking about tariffs.
Tariff. The most beautiful world. It's more beautiful than love.
I know. He did say that.
He did say that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's more beautiful than love. Tariff.
I don't think that another word for tax could be more beautiful than the word love. So slightly critical there. I would be in favor of repealing the income tax, for sure. As someone pointed out on Twitter, the problem with this is that he's not going to repeal the income tax.
He can't.
He can't do it.
It needs Congress.
Even if he did something with the income tax, all he could possibly do is reduce it down to zero and then put a bunch of tariffs on, and then someone else would get in there, they'd raise it up to whatever it was, and then we'd have the tariffs and the income tax, both of them super high. But the big deal is this guy might be the president, and he's talking about it. You know,
haven't heard a presidential candidate talk about zero income taxes since Ron Paul.
About getting rid of the income tax. Is this Ron Paul? I don't know. If I close my eyes, I don't know if it's Ron Paul. There's just no way of knowing. You know, he did do something I didn't like on Rogan, and then we will move on to the Madison Square Garden rally after that. They were talking about JFK files, and here's a problem, because he's going to put the right people in there. He learned his lesson, okay? He put the wrong people in there last time, except for he had a lot of good people telling him not to release all those JFK files. And one of those good people is the director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo. You know, when the director of the CIA comes to you and says, don't release those JFK files?
Good guy.
Good guy.
Great guy.
Good guy. Got to trust him on that. He's just doing that because he's a good guy. All right. So let's hear that.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this is your quote.
Them up partially. I was met from good people. I mean, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, sir, would rather...
This good person wanted to assassinate Julian Assange, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know that, but I do think we should take that under consideration. Just saying. I know he's going to free Ross and all that, but
not if Mike Pompeo has anything to do with it.
I question whether or not he's a good person or he was a loyal person. That's the question in my humble opinion.
The live group is saying I would call someone who could end me a good person to stay not dead too.
Yeah, there's that also. You know, they did already kill a president, so I mean, what are you gonna do? You got to be nice to him, I guess. You know, we say no, I wouldn't do that. I would tell him off. They could kill you, and they could make it look like they didn't kill you. You know, They put a lot of guys behind that, making it look like they didn't kill you. And so, hey, sure, take that under consideration. The rally at Madison Square Garden. The only rally to occur at Madison Square Garden since the Nazi rally in 1939, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They have had zero rallies since then.
That was a pro-America rally.
It's America First rally.
America First rally, yeah.
That's what... Trump's MSG rally comes 85 years after a pro-Nazi rally at famed arena. Not after any other rallies that ever occurred. at all. He also endorsed every team that ever won and lost there, too. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible place to have a rally, of course. No one's ever going to have one there again. Here is an MSNBC report on this rally.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump...
and no other backdrop of history.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Nets didn't just play there.
No one else has ever been there.
Yeah.
They haven't had Republican national conventions there, Democratic national conventions there. Roosevelt didn't speak there. Eisenhower didn't speak. No one has ever had a rally except for Trump and the American Nazi Party. That's all it was. God bless. Oh,
the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
My God. These people.
It makes you want to vote for him, doesn't it?
That clip right there.
Yeah.
Almost pushes. I have some time after the show today, and I might go early vote because of that clip right there.
And this is why I think I've been swayed.
Yeah. These people deserve to lose.
Manipulation and gaslighting that to me is like the most dangerous. When you talk, what is the woke mind virus, right? It's this. This is even worse. It's the blatant gaslighting, manipulation lie, right? And that lie has to be quashed. If you don't do your duty, Nate, and quash this lie, that Trump is Hitler, then what are you even doing?
The problem with gaslighting and the person who uses gaslighting, normally a narcissist, a psychopath, something like that, one and the same, is that if you aren't perfect, they will use anything that you do as proof of whatever it was they were gaslighting you about. And Trump's going to give them plenty of things to use for that. Plenty. And so they're not going to learn anything from this, is my problem. But I would really love to see them lose.
I don't know. I think you have to stand up. You have to stand up to the lie.
I know
this overarching lie.
Gosh, dang it! They're going to make me do it.
I mean, the lie that is going on. I mean, I think is so deep in our culture, and that's what I think you have to stand up to.
Mm-hmm.
The lie that Trump is going to demolish democracy when they're the ones demolishing democracy. The lie that Trump is going to go after his political opponents when they're the ones going after their political opponent. It's like the lie that Trump is Hitler when they're acting more like Hitler.
They're the actual. I mean, they are fascists.
The lie that Trump is going to destroy free speech when they're the ones wanting to destroy free speech. It's insane. It's so insane. Trump 2024.
I'm going to do it. This week is going to push me over the edge. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's a higher likelihood than not that I'm doing it.
And I will say this as someone who's not, I still think Trump is a liberal from New York. The dude is going to spend money. I do think he's better economically than the left. So as far as like, how is the, economy going to do under Trump versus Kamala? I think obviously.
Kamala.
I don't care. Her name is Kamala to me.
Racist. Were you at this rally, I guess?
No.
Must have been there organizing this stuff.
Kamala.
You wrote the jokes, didn't you?
Who names their kid Kamala instead of Kamala?
Freaking Indians. Let me tell you what.
Here's the thing, Nate. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Trump going to be better on the economy than Kamala? Well, yeah. I do think Trump, if you look at his first presidency, I think, and he talked about this on Rogan, deregulation was a big thing, and I think that's huge. I do think one of the reasons the economy did well was massive deregulation. Businesses were allowed to actually conduct business a bit better.
Actually, I heard someone
and he's talking about lowering the corporate tax down to 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
it is a good.
We'll compete
I
with.
want to do that.
We'll compete with who is it? Ireland, who has 15% business tax?
Ireland.
Yeah, we'll compete with Ireland.
That's where Apple.
He talked about how Apple brought back hundreds of billions of dollars back into the economy. Businesses will actually be able to conduct business. Now, I disagree with him on other instances, like tariffs and things like that. I do think you can use tariffs strategically. I'm not saying they can't be a tool, but I do think ultimately it hurts the consumer. We should be making the highest quality products for the cheapest price possible. I don't care if you do it on Mars or an asteroid or in China. It doesn't matter.
They ignore the problem. The problem is, why is it so expensive to make things here? And that you ignore that problem by just saying, I'm going to make it more expensive on those people. I would like to see someone talk about the root cause of the problem, which is that it's too expensive to do business here.
Yes.
That's the actual root cause.
And then ask the question, why is it too expensive to do business here?
Yeah.
Oh, regulations.
Here's a couple people just making things up, like this guy. I can't remember this guy's name right now. He's a radio host. They say, this person says, Republicans, stop calling it a Nazi rally. And then this speaker, look at that. He just admitted that this is a Nazi rally. They either have no sense of humor or they're just lying. I think it's both. I think people on the left have no sense of humor and they're lying pretty much all the time. But here's this speaker admitting that this was a Nazi rally.
Listen to me from Jerusalem. They really do this. Like all of you, listen to me, all of you. I get back and they go, Sid, you want to speak at this MSG thing? I go, sure. Out of character for me to speak at a Nazi rally. I was just in Israel, but I took the gig.
Yep, that was a total admission. A complete admission that this was a Nazi rally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Grant Cardone was speaking. This person says, and there we have it, pure fascism. Kamala HQ says, Trump rally speaker on Americans who don't support Trump. Put some respect on Grant Cardone's name, by the way. Come on, Grant Cardone. That guy helped save my life. Okay. That book,
Be Obsessed or Be Average?
Yeah, Be Obsessed or Be Average. That hit me at a good time about 6 years ago. Let me tell you what. Trump rally speaker on Americans who don't support Trump. We need to slaughter these people. There you have it. I can't believe he called for mass slaughter of all the people who don't support Trump and the MAGA movement. That is exactly what he does in this clip.
Promises to the middle class for 50 years. This election has to be more than a victory. It needs to be a landslide. We need to slaughter this other people. We need to bring 100 million votes to Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even Grant Cardone responded to this. Don't even respond to this, man. Wait, we're responding to this right now, but it's clearly obvious that why we're responding to it. They're just lying. They put it in the text right there. We need to slaughter these people. And if there are people dumb enough to read that and then believe it, they shouldn't be voting. They just really shouldn't be voting.
I would just respond with you think girls can be boys and boys can be girls. So I can't take anything you say seriously.
We will wrap up the rest of this conversation coming up really quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the election. I've got an interview coming up with the one and only Sheriff Mack, and then we'll be getting into Dumb Bleep of the Week on Liberty at Night on the Free Talk Live Network.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US Vice President Kamala Harris would deliver her closing argument to voters on Tuesday in a major speech in the heart of the nation's capital. She'll speak at the Ellipse, a site next to the White House, where President Donald Trump addressed a mob of his supporters before they launched a deadly riot on Congress in an attempt to overturn the last election in 2020. Benji Hire has more.
A week to go until polls close, and this is Kamala Harris's chance to offer her final pitch to America, framing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. Tens of thousands of people are expected to attend her speech, focused on a future of freedom and hope, themes central to her campaign. This is about symbolism as much as substance. The location, the timing, all intentional, sending a message that draws a stark contrast between the vice president and the former president, who remain deadlocked in the race for the Oval Office. Benji Hire, Washington.
A week before the US presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump has attacked his rival Kamala Harris, accusing her of trying to destroy the country. The former president said the Biden administration's border policies have hurt the US.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders, decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
It comes as the Trump campaign tries to distance itself from racist remarks made at a rally on Sunday in New York. Trump spoke from Florida.
No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad should ever be allowed to be the President of the United States. Can't have that. So I'm running on a plan to save America. We're going to save America. We have no choice. It's the greatest there is. We love it, and we're going to save it. And she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction.
And Donald Trump's former advisor and close ally Steve Bannon is set to be released from prison on Tuesday. He spent 4 months in a federal prison in Connecticut for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena over the January 6th riots at the US Capitol. Ira Spitzer reports.
Steve Bannon's release comes just a week before the presidential election, and the longtime Trump confidant has scheduled a news conference at a New York City hotel this afternoon. Bannon, who served for a while as Trump's chief White House strategist, is an influential and controversial conservative commentator. He was a prominent voice pushing Trump's false election fraud claims after the former president's loss in 2020. Bannon is expected to dive into the fray for the final week of campaigning, although it's still unknown what role he might play in the Trump campaign.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
That's the other thing, is that the other party, no, it's not all of them, but a lot of them, they literally think that boys can be girls and girls can be boys. Mm-hmm. I mean, what else do you need? That is like, there's so many lies that need to be stopped. And you have to do it. If we don't do it, by the way, if we don't do it democratically, if we don't do it diplomatically, if we don't do it peacefully, we're going to have to do it non-peacefully one day. So my thing is, let's try as hard as we can to do it peacefully, because
that's cool. I'm going to cut that clip right there and send it to Kamala HQ.
There might be a day where you're going to have to quash these lies, and it's going to come at a cost.
Yeah,
a heavy cost.
That's why we got to ban guns, guys. People like Charlie.
Yep.
He's looking for the enemy within. Here's Tony Hinchcliffe, I think.
Yeah.
From Kill Tony. He said some things.
By the way, I think is like the #1 most viewed YouTube channel or something like that recently.
He's got 1 million subscribers. He's probably got a lot.
No, I'm saying like some of the most viral video recently.
Well, I mean, they have what's his name on there doing Trump impersonation stuff like that.
He's so good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's a few of those clips.
These Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. That's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome.
Party of free speech, baby.
It's a good joke. Those are good jokes.
Okay. All right, now for the part that won't be as popular. I'm not sure it was the greatest idea. I love offensive jokes. Okay, in fact, I'm going to start listening to this guy because I've never listened to him before. I love offensive jokes. In fact, those jokes weren't quite offensive enough for me, but I think I'll check it out. And if he has more offensive jokes than that, then I might end up listening to him every once in a while, depending on how offensive they are. The more, the better. This could end up being bad for them. This is the biggest media around one single thing I've seen in the last couple months, probably since the Trump assassination. Like, this is the most concerted media effort about one single thing that I've seen in quite some time. And it came right after the Trump is Hitler, praising Hitler stuff from last week, to a rally there's only been two people to ever hold the rally here. It was Trump and it was the Nazis back in 1939. No other rallies ever at Madison Square Garden. I'm not sure it's going to end up being the greatest thing ever, but honestly, if you make up your mind based on a joke that a comedian tells at an event, you were probably going to vote for Kamala anyway. So it probably won't matter. I do think, like what Zach just said, you have to understand the comedian to understand the kind of jokes that you're going to get from this guy. And the left doesn't get jokes. Okay, they can't joke anymore. But this is the kind of guy that you have can speak there. And I love it. I love Comedy Central roasts. This was a Netflix one, I think. But we found Anthony Jeselnik on that roast of Charlie Sheen. Mm-hmm. Everyone should go watch the Comedy Central roast of Charlie Sheen. It's freaking hilarious. Okay. I love that kind of stuff. But these are jokes. This is a comedy style. You make fun of everyone. This guy used to write for the Comedy Central roast stuff, okay? That's what he does. He roasts everyone, just like he did there. And so I hope people understand that, but here's a funny clip.
Tom is afraid of the Giants, which is why Kevin Hart is hosting tonight. All night, he's been using the stool that Aaron Hernandez kicked out from under himself. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting. Tom Brady is a patriot, which is surprising considering he looks like a Confederate fag. Clearly your ex-wife takes after you. I hear she's out there draining balls right now. People love you, Tom. You have the same fan base as Kyle Rittenhouse. Gronk, I'm happy you could take a break from writing Santa letters to be here today. I knew you were here when we were all out of chocolate milk backstage. You look like the final boss in George Floyd, the video game. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Nikki has such a bad eating disorder, the industry keeps shoving her down our throat. You might recognize her from her podcast appearances, specials, and winning the Triple Crown at Churchill Downs. You might recognize Kevin as the jockey that rode her, and that's Churchill Downs, the racetrack, not to be confused with what Jeff Ross looks like when he smokes a cigar. Sam J, an obese African-American lesbian, so by having here, Netflix checked off a lot of boxes. Andrew Schultz, I'm glad you took a break from watching YouTube videos on how to dap up black dudes correctly. Schultz's mom is a professional ballroom dancer, which means she's a stripper that talks too much. Bert Kreischer is a king. He looks like if the Tiger King and the Liver King only ate Burger King and had a liver that looked like Martin Luther King got beat up by Rodney King. And how...
All right, so that's... Okay, so it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I hope that this wasn't some kind of stumble like what the media is portraying. By the way, like the Live Group brought up, where were those stories that were going to destroy Trump's campaign? Are we still waiting on those?
Yeah.
Or is that what came out?
You thought they were going to come out right after Rogan.
Well, there weren't any big clips from Rogan, so they didn't have anything to kill. And right now, he
did call women stupid.
Right now, they think, I did see that going around.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they don't want to stop their opponent from hurting himself. And so if Trump says women are stupid on Rogan and that clip's going around, if the Tony Hinchcliffe thing is going around, there's no reason to interrupt this.
Maybe they're waiting
with
for
another news
the
cycle.
polling to come out on Monday or Tuesday.
Could be.
To see if they need to drop something or not. Because right now he's gaining, let's see, in the betting market, even though all this is going on.
Yeah, it did gain, 0.9% from the last, and Harris was down 1% from the last. The betting market's tough to pay attention to. The spread's really wide. There's not a ton of money in bets going in. I've read into it a lot. The big jump to Trump in the 60s happened when 4 people put in like $30-something million and at one time, and that's when the jump happened. So this stuff can be manipulated, and I guess I'll give you my public service announcement right now. Do not use the betting market odds as proof to yourself that the election was stolen if Trump ends up losing. This election looks really, really close right now, but I think it's so close it's going to be a landslide in one way or the other. The polls are going to be extremely wrong in one way or the other, and it literally could be either direction. Many of the polls that I've seen are polling more Republicans than Democrats in some of these polls. And that might be because that's the way the voter base was made up last time they had an election or whatever. But it really all depends on that. How many people are you polling? What percentage makeup are you polling? Libertarians could come out and swing this election this year, by the way. They covered the spread in many elections and many states in 2020. Libertarians did. And so if libertarians, which I've met, talked to, know a lot of them that are going to be voting for Trump, a lot of people I know just that voted libertarian in 2020 are like, yeah, I'm voting for Trump. Just have to this time. Not voting for Chase. I mean, people, I'm not giving you their names, but like they live in my house. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not even telling you who they are, to keep for anonymity and all that. It was told under a condition of anonymity.
Yeah.
And so
definitely not giving the last name.
No. No, not a last name whatsoever. Yeah. Charlie, do you think the comedy thing is going to hurt Trump at all?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think most people get comedy, which is why comedy is obviously so popular. I think most people realize a lot of this is jokes. Some people won't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to hurt him.
Like I said earlier, I think if you're someone who is swayed by this, then you probably weren't going to vote for Trump anyway. Because if you make decisions based on things like that, or if a joke hurts your feelings and you decide to vote on that, you probably weren't a Trump voter. But there is a danger that they could become too online and stumble here at the last little bit, because it's not the people online on X that they need to win over right now. Like they win online already. It's some of these undecided people who can't stand Trump and can't stand Kamala, who are trying to make their decision on who they're going to vote for. And people who don't pay attention to politics very much. I mean, my wife 2 months ago asked me who was in the election. And when I told her it was Trump, she was like, no, he's not running again. I mean, there are people who pay no attention to this. Their Instagram feeds are shoes and makeup videos and stuff like that.
Don't give her last name.
Which is fine. Yeah, no,
I'm not going to tell you her last name. She spoke to you on
which is fine. That's probably a very peaceful life. They get online and they don't feel like disgusted afterwards,
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there are people who are going to make their decision this week.
She knew a lot about Diddy.
She did know a lot about Diddy. She Instagram and TMZ, those are like the things that she pays attention to,
E-Weekly.
And I can't give you her name, but when I asked her who she was voting for, she told me right off the bat who she's voting for.
Chase.
So, and I have had no conversations with, we don't talk about politics at all. I made sure she was a libertarian. She's a libertarian. We don't talk anymore because I don't like to bring politics into the house. Okay, so we don't talk about that. That could be a voter that's not even getting polled right now, like libertarians. There's libertarians out there.
Trump said the polls they don't exist anyway.
They're made up.
They just get their $500,000 fee, and then that's it.
That's entirely possible, too.
It's-
Very
They don't even
possible.
call anyone.
I asked a question on Lime. I put my point was that I can't bring myself to vote for Trump, but holy S word, do I want all the people who support Kamala to lose? And it got a lot of responses. Got almost 200 comments, which is a lot of comments between the two posts here, which is a lot of comments for our page with some good arguments and some people calling me.
Yeah.
So there's fine people on both sides, in my estimation, not swayed heavily by the idea that I could be for not voting for Trump, but I'll take it under consideration, which to me cancels the idea out, but I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
A lot of good responses on this post. I haven't made my mind up. I feel gross with the idea of voting. Plus,
you may not be a very smart man.
I'll tell you a secret. I kind of like saying,
but you know how to vote.
I kind of like saying that I didn't vote for Trump. And now when Trump does something dumb, if he is the president, that's really dumb, I can't say that I didn't vote for him if I go and vote for him.
So you're willing to allow the lies to take over.
The problem is you don't
just because Trump might do something stupid.
The only lesson learned from the
Let
lie.
me ask you this: was Ron Paul ever perfect? Was he perfect in everything he said or did?
I wouldn't say he's perfect. I'm sure I could find something wrong with him. I can't tell you what it is.
Would you have voted for him for president?
Yeah. I can't tell you why he's not perfect, but I'm sure he's not, because everyone's fallen short and stuff. So I can't tell you what it is. I'm thinking about it.
Out of all the options we have for president, is Trump not the best one?
Well, he's the best one that has a possibility of winning.
Okay. Out of all the viable
options. And I feel gross saying that, because if you keep that mindset, well, the Libertarian Party's never going to do anything. But this time they done messed up. Hey, Ron. And so I can't do that.
Nate's going to vote for Trump. I know it. I can feel it. I feel it in the room.
You can feel
I can feel the vote happening. And you're welcome, America. I think I've done my duty in convincing him. He's doing the Trump dance right now. Look at him. He can't even help it. His subconscious.
I'm just feeling it coming over me. I don't know what to do right now.
His subconscious is going to vote for Trump when he gets to the ballot box. He's not even going to know how his hand is selecting Trump, but it's going to. It's probably his inner white.
Kamala came out and gave this dire warning. Very scary situation we're in right now. This is her last-ditch effort, folks. We'll see if it pays off for her.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
Now, let me tell you what bothers me about that statement.
Is this from the White House?
I don't know.
Where is this from?
Somewhere with a white door and white trim around it with flags. So he said that because he doesn't want a military that's loyal to the United States Constitution. Well, wouldn't that be terrible, Charlie, if all of a sudden we had a military that wasn't loyal to the United States Constitution? Except for the fact that they're doing the same thing. They're gaslighting you right now because the frickin' military right now is not loyal to the United States Constitution. They're loyal to the authorization, the use of military force. We had endless wars that take 20 years, undeclared wars that take 20 years. And Trump wants a military that's not loyal to the United States Constitution? They haven't done that was constitutional in 100 years. And we're supposed to act like right now this will be dangerous because the military will stop being constitutional all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Give me a freaking break.
Yeah. You need to kick cat or
He
something?
wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. One that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear, about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials.
By the way, she's making all this stuff up, by the way. There was one enemy within comment, and he didn't list out all of these people that he considers to be the enemy within. This has been a talking point. It kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier. There is an issue if, let's imagine you had a libertarian come in. Now, that's not Trump. Let's imagine you had a libertarian come in and they went to enact actual libertarianism in the country. But you had this group of individuals, say 2 million people or so, that work for the federal government, and all these people in the bureaucracy, the deep state, the deeper state, and then the people that the deep state are worried about, and they refused to do anything that person said. They kept working on all the things that they were working on beforehand. They didn't make the changes. They didn't stop the spying or the illegal whatever it is that they're doing. What do you do if that machine, which it is a machine that's been running the country since the 1960s, about, after they kill the president, that this machine has been running the country since that time, and they refuse to do what this libertarian president comes in and decides to do? You would have to use force to prevent those people, to stop them from doing what they're doing. And it would be very difficult if you didn't have people in the military that were loyal to you instead of the deep state, or that were actually loyal to the Constitution instead of the deep state. If you were actually going to change the country and you thought the deep state was this machine that's been running the country since they killed the president in 1963, and you wanted to actually stop them, it would be very difficult to do that if they decided they just weren't going to listen to you. And you had a bunch of people in the military that also weren't loyal to any of the orders that you gave, and they just kept working for their departments and stuff, and they just decided to ignore you. That would be difficult to do. It'd be tough for a libertarian to come in and do, and it'd be tough for Trump to come in and do if he was going to do a couple things that decrease their power. But anyone who wants to come in and do any of those things I just talked about is looked at as this unique threat to democracy. And what they mean by democracy is the machine that's been running the country for the last 60 years or so.
I think that's a good way to put it. Democracy equals deep state.
Yeah, that's what they mean by democracy.
When they're trying to protect democracy, they're trying to protect the lifers,
their way of life,
lifers.
Their way of life.
Yes.
Their jobs. The way that things are running in the government right now is what they mean by democracy. And any threat to that is a threat to democracy. Let's see what else she says.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler,
allegedly,
the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one.
He was already president.
Thank you.
By the way.
I forgot about that.
So my question is, why didn't he bring in generals that would have listened to him? And he could have we wouldn't even be having this election because
we wouldn't have needed to.
We wouldn't. Donald Trump would just be king currently of America.
He was gonna do that in his second term. Is the thing. And you can't do that in your first term. You got to wait until it's your second term. That's where you really can start being a dictator, which is in some ways true because you're not worried about getting elected again. But yeah, that's a great question. Like, why didn't he do those things to begin with?
He had 4 years to cancel the 2020 elections. Like,
plenty of time.
You don't think that who cares about getting reelected? The election doesn't matter.
Magoo says he's the worst Hitler ever. Like, as Hitler's rolling in his grave looking at Donald Trump's attempt to be Hitler.
You call that?
Yeah.
An attempt at a dictator?
Only in German. And
Yeah.
he's waving his hands around and stuff like that. Yeah, that's really bad. And then she does the dictator on day one thing. My God. I can't take anything she's saying seriously. This is an interview with Sean Hannity where he says he'd be a dictator on day one, and he lists out like 2 executive orders he would do. Now, if doing 2 executive orders on your first day in office makes you a dictator on day one, then tell me the president that was not a dictator on day one. Show me one of them.
Maybe Washington?
Yeah, okay, probably Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, wasn't a dictator on day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that song goes. So they're still using, it's so serious, it's so dangerous that they use an obviously stupid talking point from an off-the-cuff remark where he says he would be a dictator by signing an executive order to restore the Keystone Pipeline and to shut down the illegal immigration at the border on day one.
Dictator.
This is serious. This is just like Hitler, if I've ever seen it. Okay?
And vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas.
I need to hear that one.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable.
According to the deep state.
And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there and no longer be there to rein him in.
Because he would fire all
So
of
the
them.
bottom line.
Yeah.
The people who currently pull the strings would no longer be there to pull the strings anymore.
Well, she's saying they're going to put in a bunch of MAGA people, which means dictators. Those are Hitler MAGA people that they're going to put in there. And he's going to fire all the civil servants. When he talks about firing a bunch of people in the deep state and the bureaucracy, they talk about he's going to fire civil servants. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't consider those freaking parasite civil servants whatsoever. But that's what they call them. Does she say anything else stupid? Let's see.
Line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
I got to tell you, man, this is the closest I've ever come to voting for Donald Trump today. Today's episode is the best argument I've ever heard.
Tell me why.
Because these freaking people deserve to go down.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US Vice President Kamala Harris will deliver her closing argument to voters on Tuesday in a major speech in the heart of the nation's capital. She'll speak at the Ellipse, a site next to the White House, where President Donald Trump addressed a mob of his supporters before they launched a deadly riot on Congress in an attempt to overturn the last election in 2020. Benji Hire has more.
A week to go until polls close, and this is Kamala Harris's chance to offer her final pitch to America, framing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. Tens of thousands of people are expected to attend her speech, focused on a future of freedom and hope, themes central to her campaign. This is about symbolism as much as substance. The location, the timing, all intentional, sending a message that draws a stark contrast between the vice president and the former president, who remain deadlocked in the race for the Oval Office. Benji Hire, Washington.
A week before the US presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump has attacked his rival Kamala Harris, accusing her of trying to destroy the country. The former president said the Biden administration's border policies have hurt the US.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders, decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
It comes as the Trump campaign tries to distance itself from racist remarks made at a rally on Sunday in New York. Trump spoke from Florida.
No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad should ever be allowed to be the President of the United States. Can't have that. So I'm running on a plan to save America. We're going to save America. We have no choice. It's the greatest there is. We love it, and we're going to save it. And she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction.
And Donald Trump's former advisor and close ally Steve Bannon is set to be released from prison on Tuesday. He spent 4 months in a federal prison in Connecticut for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena over the January 6th riots at the US Capitol. Ira Spitzer reports.
Steve Bannon's release comes just a week before the presidential election, and the longtime Trump confidant has scheduled a news conference at a New York City hotel this afternoon. Bannon, who served for a while as Trump's chief White House strategist, is an influential and controversial conservative commentator. He was a prominent voice pushing Trump's false election fraud claims after the former president's loss in 2020. Bannon is expected to dive into the fray for the final week of campaigning, although it's still unknown what role he might play in the Trump campaign.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at Iran's capacity to take further military action against Israel. Even if it wants to, some Western defense analysts believe that Israel's Friday night attack on Tehran, in retaliation for this month's earlier ballistic missile attack by the Iranians on Israel, has left the Iranian military reeling. The Israelis went after what they called military targets, including several fuel mixing facilities, the places where Iran's military prepared the solid fuel that is used in the country's ballistic arsenal. Professor Gwydion Prinz is a former member of the UK Chief of Defence's Strategy Advisory Panel and a former NATO advisor.
I don't think it's removed absolutely all their capability. They obviously will have a supply of viable ballistic missiles and of drones, but there are 20-odd of these very complicated mixing machines. The Iranians will have great difficulty to remanufacture them or to get them from abroad. It means that if you can't manufacture the fuel, then you don't have any ability to make the missiles fly. And so that was clearly what the Israelis did. So Israel can defend itself in the short term against whatever arsenal they still have, but they won't have the ability to replace that arsenal quickly.
Over the weekend, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said the Israeli attack on his country should neither be downplayed nor exaggerated. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. US presidential candidate Kamala Harris is due to give closing arguments tonight at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., site of a major Trump Stop the Steal rally from 2020 after the last election. Contender Donald Trump has attacked Harris's border policy at a speech in Florida as the campaign tries to distance itself from racist comments made by a comedian at one of his rallies. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A month after the death of leader Kim Jong-il, North Korea's 24.5 million citizens have returned to their regular daily routines this week, holding a festive synchronized disco jump rope gala in Pyongyang's main public square. Life in the hermetic communist nation is reportedly beginning to normalize following the protracted mourning period, with citizens once again donning their brightly colored uniforms and performing intricate gymnastics routines in perfect unison.
It is an inspiring sight to see so many loyal citizens find the strength to unfurl their long silken streamers and do dozens of tandem backflips set to dance music.
Observers reported that new North Korean leader Kim Jong-un nodded once in approval of the disco jump rope gala, signaling an official transfer of power.
A recent study from the Centers for Disease Control finds that over 100 million children are being exposed to harmful levels of stupidity in their own homes. Hear the debate about secondhand ignorance on the next In the Know.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
Did you see that article that Wired magazine did about constitutional sheriffs?
Probably. I've seen quite a few.
They have one. They have one posted on.
They were criticizing us big time.
Oh yeah, October 24th. Yeah, so just a few days ago, the far right sheriffs ready to disrupt the election. And
I could talk about all the people attacking us for the entire show. Yeah. It's absolutely a joke. I didn't know any of this until I became a national figure, but I didn't know I was a racist. I didn't know our organization was based on paramilitary white supremacy. I didn't know that my high school teacher, Mrs. Greenbaum, was somebody that I hated. Because we never cared. We never knew she was a Jew. I never knew Greenbaum was a Jewish name until about 30 years after I graduated from high school. I didn't know. We didn't care. She was good friends with my mom. She was in book club with my mom. If the people who keep crying racism would just shut up, we wouldn't even know that there's racism that existed.
It's something I never thought about. When I was in school in the 90s, and my idol, my favorite person in the world was Michael Jordan. And I have Michael Jordan everything, everywhere. The fact that he was black, I don't remember ever thinking about that the entire time. It never occurred to me that my idol was black.
Can you see the picture on the wall there?
I do, yeah.
That's my favorite person in the world, Willie Mays. And some of my friends and family, when he passed away a few months ago, actually sent me condolences.
Really?
Yeah.
He was that important to you?
He really was part of my life.
Yeah.
I saw him when I was 10 years old and in Candlestick Park, and I've loved him ever since.
Well, I guess I'll let everyone know who we're talking to, and I'll throw the intro at the beginning. I am talking to the one and only Sheriff Richard Mack from the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. We had an interview with you back in 2021. COVID was going on, but we had the one place we could go to hang out, which was Freedom Fest in South Dakota. We had a great time. It was a huge event. So we had a great interview there. We already talked about the Supreme Court case and the Brady bill and all that in that interview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to that interview for anyone who's interested in the history on that, because we've got about half an hour. And I do want to ask you about what's the mission of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And then we'll talk about the election for sure.
Okay. Well, the mission of CSPOA is pretty simple. Uphold and defend the Constitution. Our motto is, or our kind of a backdrop motto is,
uphold, defend, protect, and serve. And so that really gives some indication of the oath of office that each of us take. And everyone in government is required by the supreme law of the land to swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And all three branches of government actually have different assignments, but overall our goal is the same. Each branch is to uphold and defend, protect and preserve the United States Constitution and thereby protect civil rights of every citizen. In my Supreme Court case, Scalia actually said, hence a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other. And folks, by the way, that is in this precious little booklet right here that I have. And folks, this is a highlighted version of the Supreme Court case. It's available at cspoa.org, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Get those there, see the name, and so you'll recognize it. It costs like $2 or you can get 3 for $5. And this is a way to prove to other people in your community, especially local officials, that we are not subject to federal direction. That's a quote from the case. And so, folks, if you want to prove to anybody that we've won on the side of federalism and diminishing the role of the federal government that they have stolen over the years, that they're our boss somehow, and that they can force everybody to wear a mask or to get vaxxed or get fired or whatever else they think they can do to protect us from our stupid selves, that's not their role. And they have a very limited role, and that is also explained in this case.
Well, so one of the things that's so cool about this, I mean, you are where I found out about the unique power that sheriffs have in the country. You know, a lot of people think the federal government signs a law or the president writes an executive order, and that goes all the way down through your local police, and they all have to enforce it because that's the law. And I did not realize that there's sort of a last guard for the Constitution from our sheriffs, and I don't even know if a lot of police officers realize this. I have officers in my family, and I don't know that they realize it.
No, they don't. The lack of education that we receive in the police academies and in police work never touches these subjects. How about just if there was training in law enforcement, ongoing training and in police academies, why we take the oath of office and what is its significance to and for the people we work for. You know, that's never talked about, never studied. So I don't blame most officers for being ignorant about this stuff. But we've got to get back, and law enforcement officers need to know and understand their role in preserving our constitutional republic. And let me answer the question this way, real simply. I'll give you a real quick story. The tale of two sheriffs. Sheriff Chronister in Tampa arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown for having church during COVID. Okay. Arrested a pastor in America for having church. On the other hand, Pastor Caleb Cooper in New Mexico went to his sheriff and said, "Sheriff, I am not going to close down ever. And I want you to know why. Because the government does not run our church. Jesus Christ runs our church. And so I want you to tell me, Sheriff Hamilton, what you will do to protect us." And Sheriff Hamilton responded with, "If it takes having to go to jail myself, then so be it. But I will protect you and your church." And so in came the state police to shut them down. Sheriff Hamilton confronted them, not angrily or physically or violently. He simply informed them that he had deputized every single member in that church and that they were under his authority and that they will not be shutting down. The state police left, and Pastor Cooper had church every Sunday and never shut down, not a single second.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big difference there. And
that's the purpose of CSPOA. That's the purpose of constitutional sheriffs.
Now, what do individual officers do? Is there anything they can do when their sheriff maybe doesn't have these beliefs and they just want to enforce every single thing that the government sends down? I mean, are they just going to get fired? There's nothing they can do about it?
Well, no military and no law enforcement are required by any law or statute to violate the Constitution. So we need to understand that the supreme law of the land is the Constitution. And somebody gives you a subservient order, for instance, to confiscate guns. Many officers have already refused to do that. Many sheriffs have refused to do that. There's already very strict gun control laws in some states. And many officers, many sheriffs have said, no, we're not doing that here. Sheriffs in California have literally stopped widespread confiscation and many other gun control laws in California. Our lawsuit stopped Brady Bills 2, 3, 4, and 5. So sheriffs have already done more to save the Second Amendment than any legislature in the entire country. But the bottom line is, as you alluded to at the beginning, the sheriffs are the last line of defense for our civil rights and God-given liberties. And so if the sheriff is going to go along with vapid politicians who don't know the difference between gun control and the Second Amendment, then there's going to be problems, because the ultimate goal is individual liberty, not government overreach and government orders. Government is here to protect our rights, and if they don't do it, we all have an obligation to stand against it.
Now, right now, we're talking about laws and executive actions taken by the federal government, but there's also something called elections, which we're coming up on very soon. I don't know if you heard, but there's an election coming up very soon. And now, what role do sheriffs play in this? Election integrity is a very big deal. A lot of questions swirl around the 2020 election, and of course, this election as well. And so what, have you guys worked to try and secure elections? Can sheriffs work towards securing elections? What are you doing for that right now?
Well, obviously, if there really is election fraud, then who's supposed to investigate that and who's supposed to prevent it? Well, of course, the supreme law authority in every county, of course. This decision, Scalia calls us, the sheriffs who filed this lawsuit, he calls us the CLEOs, the chief law enforcement officer. It's documented in a Supreme Court case that the sheriffs are the CLEOs. So how could a crime be committed within their county known as election fraud, and they sit back and say, wow, damn, I wish I could do something about that? Well, there is. And it is the worst crime in America because it steals everything from us. We have to be able to do this. We have to know that our elections are safe and secure. And without that, we're just puppets of whoever really is running those machines and running these elections. And so, of course, the sheriff has that. And we actually have requested every sheriff to make sure that there's safeguards in their counties at every precinct, wherever they're voting, at every polling location. And they're making sure that, one, that the machines have been tested properly. What does that hurt? What does that hurt? And people start screaming, we don't want sheriffs around. That will intimidate people and they'll leave and they won't vote and they won't stay in line. And, if you're that afraid of a peace officer that you don't want to vote because they're there keeping the peace and providing security, if that is really what they're thinking, then we got worse problems than you not voting. That is absolute paranoia. It's absolute brainwashing, and it's absolutely not true.
Why do you think some people don't seem to be interested in securing the elections? Like, I think this is very important. Even if you don't think 2020 was stolen, you think nothing went wrong, right. It's very important for the American people to trust the outcome of an election. That sure. secures the entire system. If we keep doing this thing where people don't trust the outcome of the election, the entire thing will fall apart. And as much as my libertarian friends might like the idea of that sometimes, let me tell you, it's not going to be a libertarian utopia that pops up to replace it, but why do some people just seem to not be interested in this whatsoever?
Well, you're talking about the mainstream, lamestream media that wants to guarantee and perpetuate cheating. They're on that side, or they're simply on the side of the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party has also refused to admit that there's any cheating going on in the country. Right now, Utah is going through the worst cheating in the entire country, and the story is being buried. Governor Cox there is the incumbent, and he lost in the state convention to Phil Lyman by 67.5% to his 32.5%. No governor, no incumbent governor has ever received less than 40% at the state convention. Phil Lyman won, and that guarantees him to be the Republican nominee in the general election. If you get over 60% at the convention, well, in came Governor Cox cheating, and he said, well, I have 28,000 signatures, so I won. And everybody goes, okay, show us the signatures. No, we're not going to show them to you. Well, then you don't have them. If you don't show them, if you're not transparent in that, but still, even if he did, how does that nullify the victory of Phil Lyman? And so right now, in fact, my next show today, I'm the guest host on Power Hour, and Phil Lyman is coming on because the media in Utah continues to cover up the whole thing. Everybody, the Rhino Mafia in Utah is covering up the whole thing, acting like Cox won. Cox is now on the ballot, and Lyman is actually running, who beat him already, and Lyman is actually running as a write-in candidate. So what did they do? They found two other Republicans with the last name Lyman to also run as a write-in candidate. I know, like there's no cheating. So finally, they made a deal with the two people that were running, Richard Lyman and I think Carolyn Lyman. They decided to go ahead and quit after they admitted there was kind of a shenanigan going on there. So now they withdrew from the race. And so anybody who votes for A. Lyman is now going towards Phil Lyman. But this whole thing stinks to high heaven. And so now, because the signatures finally got verified by the state, and the result was that Cox doesn't have enough signatures. He's not even qualified to be on the ballot now. And they're going to keep it going. They're going to keep it going. And then the state paid $500,000 to put up billboards all across the state along the freeways to put up signs that Utah is the leader of election integrity. So that they could brainwash people into believing that nothing was wrong. And they are actually the worst in the country.
I've heard nothing about this. I haven't seen one single thing about this.
I know.
Wow.
It's covered up. It's totally covered up. And I'm doing more about it, and I live in Arizona and trying to bring it out there because Cox and his minions have actually cheated and gone around all the rules that are supposed to happen. Phil Lyman won the convention, and then they're saying, oh, no, he didn't. And so they literally forced a primary when Lyman was already guaranteed to nullify it's not nullify. He goes around the primary. There is no primary if somebody wins 60% or more, and he won the most ever in the history of the state.
Well, what's the recourse for something like this? Like what? How do you?
He tried to go to the Supreme Court in Utah. They wouldn't take the case. Now he's at the United States Supreme Court.
Huh?
And who knows how long they'll take?
That's crazy. I haven't seen anything about. And you're saying this is on the Republican side, right? So so it's not. Yes. They're not being. This is unbiased.
But, and look at 2016. There was. All the Democrats were screaming bloody murder that there was election fraud. But then in 2020, of course, you and I and anybody else saying, just asking about the election. How were the machines verified? How were the votes tallied? If you do that, the FBI would come knocking on your door just to ask the questions. And so this has gone crazy. And then again in 2022, obviously there was cheating in Arizona. And this is very difficult to prove in a lot of ways, but True the Vote has mountains of evidence. And they keep saying, oh, no, because if you don't look at the evidence, then I guess, yeah, you don't have it.
Well, one of the toughest things here is that the state, like, to prove that there was fraud, you've got to rely on the state to do that. You know, and there's not a big incentive there for them to investigate their own wrongdoing, right?
No, Washington, D.C. will not correct itself. We already know that Washington, D.C., FBI, whoever, will not investigate criminals in the Biden administration. They won't do it. Merrick Garland will make sure they don't. However, just so you know, Sheriff Mark Lamb, who will be out of office January 1st in Pinal County, he's going on to bigger and better things. Of course, there's nothing bigger than sheriff, but he already conducted an investigation on Alejandro Mayorkas for aiding and abetting illegal immigration. He's turned it over to his county attorney, but that county attorney just lost his election, and so he's refusing to prosecute. So we're hoping that the new one will do it, but it will be after the election instead of before, because this Volkel county attorney, his last name Volkel, I believe, he's refusing to do anything with it because he's mad at the world because he lost his re-election bid.
What's wild is they say Republicans are the ones that are breaking with traditions and norms, and Mayorkas was impeached and the Senate didn't even take it up. And that's an odd thing. Typically the House, when they vote to impeach you, at least go have a trial in the Senate, and they just decided not to.
Right. and that's how it is when it's just a matter of politics. Who's in power, they control who gets impeached. They control who gets in trouble, who gets investigated. And it's quite the corrupt joke. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again on your show right now. The greatest threat to our God-given American republic is our own federal government.
Amen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of federal government, how are you feeling about Trump this time around? Listen, I'm a libertarian. I didn't vote for him in 2020 or 2016. I'm thinking heavily about it. I know a lot of libertarians are voting for Trump this time around. There seems to be something different this time around than the last time. How do you feel? What do you think is governing style as far as the power of the federal government is going to be like this time? Do you think it's going to be maybe less government intrusion than the last time, less regulations? Kill even more regulations, kill some of the departments. Are we actually going to see a lot of that this time?
Well, I'm very libertarian as well. You cannot be a strict constitutionalist and not be libertarian. There's a couple of places where I disagree with the Libertarian Party, but I'm very libertarian. I call myself a libertarian constitutional conservative, small L, which I don't care which one. I've been a libertarian before. I've looked for all parties, anything that would really focus on individual liberty and civil rights. And so right now I'm a registered Republican because I do want to vote for some very powerful candidates that are Republicans. One is Maricopa County Sheriff out here, Jerry Sheridan in Arizona. He is an absolute godsend. And it's the fourth largest sheriff's office in the country. And I am voting for Trump. And I voted for him the other two times. He does not know the Constitution very well, but he is a good, solid businessman. He has common sense, and he supports smaller government. I don't know if you saw his interview with Joe Rogan. I didn't either because it was too long, and I'm very busy. But I went to a rally of Trump's earlier this year, and he's made some very strong comments against the IRS and against the income tax. On Joe Rogan, he said he is going to support abolishing the income tax. There you go, libertarians. That should be enough. That should be enough for you right there.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US Vice President Kamala Harris would deliver her closing argument to voters on Tuesday in a major speech in the heart of the nation's capital. She'll speak at the Ellipse, a site next to the White House, where President Donald Trump addressed a mob of his supporters before they launched a deadly riot on Congress in an attempt to overturn the last election in 2020. Benji Hire has more.
A week to go until polls close, and this is Kamala Harris's chance to offer her final pitch to America, framing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. Tens of thousands of people are expected to attend her speech, focused on a future of freedom and hope, themes central to her campaign. This is about symbolism as much as substance. The location, the timing, all intentional, sending a message that draws a stark contrast between the vice president and the former president, who remain deadlocked in the race for the Oval Office. Benji Hire, Washington.
A week before the US presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump has attacked his rival Kamala Harris, accusing her of trying to destroy the country. The former president said the Biden administration's border policies have hurt the US.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders, decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
It comes as the Trump campaign tries to distance itself from racist remarks made at a rally on Sunday in New York. Trump spoke from Florida.
No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad should ever be allowed to be the president of the United States. Can't have that. So I'm running on a plan to save America. We're going to save America. We have no choice. It's the greatest there is. We love it, and we're going to save it. And she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction.
And Donald Trump's former advisor and close ally Steve Bannon is set to be released from prison on Tuesday. He spent 4 months in a federal prison in Connecticut for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena over the January 6th riots at the US Capitol. Ira Spitzer reports.
Steve Bannon's release comes just a week before the presidential election, and the longtime Trump confidant has scheduled a news conference at a New York City hotel this afternoon. Bannon, who served for a while as Trump's chief White House strategist, is an influential and controversial conservative commentator. He was a prominent voice pushing Trump's false election fraud claims after the former president's loss in 2020. Bannon is expected to dive into the fray for the final week of campaigning, although it's still unknown what role he might play in the Trump campaign.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Because I believe the reason that libertarians and independents and others are coming on board of third parties is because they see the huge devastation that will be caused by Marxist Kamala Harris, because she doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. She is an absolute idiot when it comes to government and what the proper role of government is. And her promising all this money, folks, we are already $36 trillion in debt. And that's the bare minimum. That's not even considering our commitments to Medicare and Social Security and others that we have out there. And she actually said this. This is how idiotic this woman is. She said, we're sending $157 million to the people in Lebanon. And the very next breath, the very next day, and because they are having hard times and they're really going through some struggles. And then she promised, $750 for the people in North Carolina who had lost everything. and they're not even getting it. And this is how ridiculously stupid this is, this administration. She's worse than Biden, and she's not sick. and so this is the year, and I think people realize this is the year that we will decide to keep our Bill of Rights or to replace it with the Communist Manifesto. America is dying, and she's going to put the nail in the coffin. And so I beg every libertarian to come out and do as Trump said, make this too big to rig. and I believe that I think he's got some people lined up for his cabinet, some real good constitutional conservatives that are going to be fair, honest, and support and implement the proper role of government and get these bureaucracies out of our lives.
Yeah, that's what I really want to see is going after the bureaucracy because, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they really are just puppets. It's not them running the country at all. They just give speeches. That's all they do. It's the people in the bureaucracy that actually run America. We know that right now because Biden's not the president. He's not running the country right now. It's the same people that have been running the country for the last 4 years, and it's those people that are actually running for re-election right now. It's not even Kamala Harris she's on the ballot to be the puppet for those people, and I think that's why they hate Trump so much. Is because he won't let
Jill
those people
Biden's been
control
going to meetings for them, and she's not supposed to be running anything either. But I've actually given her the purple ribbon for the biggest liar in America. It's Jill Biden. She knows for a fact that both Kamala and her husband are not capable of being president.
It's not even just being a big liar. It's a disgusting person for Jill Biden to allow her husband to keep doing what he's doing. I mean, I've seen what Biden is going through. I've seen it with my grandparents and great grandparents, and she knows that what's going on with Biden. And so not only is she lying, it's disgusting for a spouse to even allow their husband to continue to do what he's doing every day,
to prop him up like she does, to prop him up and exploit him. And she is absolutely, to coin a phrase, she's a pathetic deplorable.
I've heard that one before. I've heard that before. Okay, in our last couple minutes here, I want to ask you, I want you to tell me what the outcome of this election is going to be. What's your guess? The polls are tied up, of course. I've never seen it tied like this before. Of course, I will mention if the polls are like they were in 2020, it means Trump is going to win in a massive landslide because the polls were off so far in 2020. But I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
I pray that we get some good sheriffs in because it's going to be bad either way. I believe that Trump is going to win. And after that, come November 7th, 8th, 10th, 15th, after it's all decided, then we're going to have violence. And it's going to be some of the worst violence that America has ever seen since the Civil War. If you study this out and you judge the future but by the past, then you have to know that's coming. And of course, Trump's going to get the blame for all of it. They could even come out and be so stupid as to try, after he wins, to sentence him to prison. There's a lot of there's a lot of horrible possibilities there. None of them are good. And I highly recommend that people go to our website and get food storage and your satellite phones, and solar generators. That would be from Satellite Phone Company that is one of our sponsors. I've got them. I've got 2 solar generators. I've got food storage from Numana Foods. We've got our own water supply here at home. Yes, it takes a lot of room. You should also have some water purifiers. But folks, my honest opinion, to answer your question, judging by the past, it's going to be horrible either way. And the worst violence is going to be if Trump wins.
I completely agree with you, and I like that you're talking about judging by the past. I've said this a lot before. If we're serious and we're honest about what we talk about every single day on this show, there's no reason to expect it to go any other way eventually.
Exactly.
You know, that we talk about that all the time. Why would we think it's going to be different? I hope sincerely that we're both wrong about that. And
I pray that I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I pray that I'm wrong.
I really do.
Pray for America, but America is dying, and it's just going to get worse.
I think it'll get worse before it gets better. But like you, I hope and pray that we'll see that time when it does get a lot better. Sheriff Mack, thank you so much for your time today. Great interview. I know all of our listeners are going to love it. They can go to what was the website? CSPOA.org. Is that what it is?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. CSPOA.org, and every one of you can become a member of our posse. Please do when you hit the website.
All right, Sheriff, thank you so much for your time today. Okay, moving right along, we are going to get into Dumb Bleep of the Week. That's something we do every single week on our podcast, Good Morning Liberty. Right now, we're called Liberty at Night. We just got done talking to Sheriff Richard Mack. Now we're going to get into Dumb Bleep of the Week. Make sure you go find Good Morning Liberty on your favorite podcast app. Watch us on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or Odyssey. And of course, listen on your favorite podcast app, leave a rating and review. It really does help. We don't just say that so we can see it and feel good. It helps the algorithms. And right now, before we get into Dumb Bleep, got to tell you, I got a write-in vote. Okay. I saw it. I saw the screenshot. Got a write-in vote in Texas. If I don't win this thing, let me tell you what, it's rigged because it's looking good so far right now. Let me tell you. It's Dumb Bleep of the Week. That's where we talk about the dumbest things that happened over the last week.
I honestly think it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So the
live group is asking for the birth certificate, though.
I don't have that. They didn't issue
and
those.
we need your tax records.
Yeah. They didn't. I didn't get those. Got lost when the bomb was dropped, you know.
Oh, yeah.
In Japan.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Anyhow, it's Dumb Bleep of the Week. And so I'll try to tell you again, the Fed Haters Club threw in a bunch of submissions. I threw in some submissions. We're going to vote on them. We're going to see who wins. It's going to move to Dumb Bleep of the Year. And the person who submitted that will get a trophy to put on their mantle. So they will finally be enough. And the person who did the dumbest thing of the year will also get a trophy. They will likely not open it, or they will throw it away, something like that, searching for anthrax, whatever they want to do. And we'll just, they just get a suspicious package from a right-wing extremist organization such as ours. Then they're not going to open that stuff.
You're saying there's not anthrax in it?
No, there's not. They can waste their time searching it if they want to, but it's going to be hidden pretty good. So we've got Dumb Bleep of the Week. We're going to start running through all the dumb stuff that's happened. It's been an especially dumb week. Holy crap. Has it been a dumb week?
Did you expect anything less?
No.
Next week might be worse.
Next week, yeah, that's the last week of democracy.
We may have to do
it might be the last week for America.
We may have to do a special Dumb Monday before voting on Tuesday.
Probably will.
Because there's going to be a lot that comes out next weekend.
It's going to, oh my God.
Study it.
This is going to suck so much, this whole thing. Here's a couple clips from Kamala's CNN town hall for Dumb Bleep number 1. This is a real quickin' for you.
So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess. So
it's always great when you're the only one laughing at your jokes that you're doing. This was especially my favorite. Are there any mistakes that you've ever made? This has to be my favorite one.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life, or in your life in the last 4 years that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
It's so good.
You know what? She could have hit a home run here.
Yeah.
She could have easily taken accountability and be like, you know what? I think some of the things we did at the border were a mistake.
Yeah.
And I've learned from those, which is why I'm correcting those.
She could have done that. She did not.
And that I would have been a home run. And
I think the American people would like to hear a politician who says that they made a mistake, acknowledges that they did something wrong.
Here's the funniest part of the whole thing is she brought the word mistake back in to the answer and said, I think it would be a mistake not to.
Mm-hmm. But she does.
I pay attention to all of, I work hard on knowing what the issues are, and I think it's a mistake to not know what the issues are.
Her mistake that she owned up to was that it would be a mistake if she did this, but she doesn't do it. And so it's not a mistake. And that's pretty freaking hilarious.
That's so funny. It's so funny.
I really do think people would like someone to be honest. This goes for both sides of the aisle. Maybe they wouldn't actually, because if the people would like that, I bet more people would do it because they're just trying to earn people's votes. And so maybe there's been enough polling conducted on this that says, yeah, they don't like it when you tell them that you're not perfect. You know, you got to be perfect. Everything that you say has to be perfect and you can never be wrong. You know,
I just don't think that resonates with real people.
I feel like they would have done it by now because they're just these empty vessels for like focus group material to come out of, you know. I don't know.
Look at the most popular people on the web. Typically it's because they're just normal, accountable, authentic people.
Yeah. I know. I don't know why they don't do it, but I sure would like it if they would admit a mistake. They can't do it though because they want to run your life, and we've explained that several times. Number 2, something happening today. Donald Trump is going on Joe Rogan. The Joe Rogan Experience, I believe, is what it's still called.
JRE.
The New Republic put out a headline. Now, the article was like 3 paragraphs. They did not explain themselves whatsoever. And the headline is, Trump cancels all his events in favor of one of the worst people ever. Donald Trump will be sitting down with Joe Rogan.
Trump cancels all of his events for 100 million downloads.
Yeah.
For 100 million people to hear his voice.
They canceled all his events for Friday during the time that he's going to be recording this podcast episode. He still did an event last night, probably several events yesterday. And he'll probably still be doing something tonight, I bet. But he probably canceled something to be on Rogan. Now, in the article itself, I didn't bring in because they don't discuss this at all. They do not describe why Joe Rogan is one of the worst people ever. There's no explanation on this. The 3 paragraphs of the article.
He's a rich white man.
Okay, so by default. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless your name is Dick Cheney, who apparently... It's really good for Kamala to get the endorsement of a great and fine man like Dick Cheney.
Yep.
You don't want to talk to people who like don't have millions of deaths attached to their name. You really just want to associate with the mass murderers who did it for democracy.
Yep.
I mean, Cheney was trying to spread democracy, and Kamala's fighting for democracy, and so that's why they're able to come together, because they both care about democracy a lot. He killed a whole bunch of people after lying about it, and she is an idiot, and they're both going to work together for democracy. There you go. And he's not one of the worst people ever anymore.
Not anymore. No.
All right, so that's real quick for Dumb Bleep number 2. By the way, I'll say what I said earlier. This might not be a slam dunk for Trump. I think Rogan is a tough interviewer, and I think he will not allow Trump to do some of the things that Trump does, which is deflect and move, try to not answer a question or give a ridiculous answer for something.
This is where, if I was on Trump's team, this is where I would say, like, be authentic.
Yeah.
Take some accountability.
Like, listen,
be real with people.
My assumption is RFK probably called Trump before this and said, listen, if you try to BS him, he's mostly BS proof.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if he has some of the facts, if he remembers some of the stuff, he's going to call you out on it in front of 100 million people.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of Joe Rogan. He's like, well, that's not true.
Like, that's not true.
And
sometimes he's right about that. Sometimes he's wrong.
Yes. True. Here's an interesting thing about Joe Rogan really quick. I think it's hilarious. I've seen through the TikToks and Instagram Reels and stuff, in the current dating culture, for any of you out there that are dating, I'm speaking to the men, apparently, if you listen to Joe Rogan, it's a red flag for a lot of women out there. Which I think, if you reverse that, it's actually really good. You should mention the fact that you listen to Joe Rogan on a first date.
You should.
So that the trash can take itself out.
Mm-hmm. And I think...
stops talking to you, perfection.
Mm-hmm.
If she even tells you, if she verbally is like, listening to Joe Rogan is a red flag, kindly thank her. Pay for the meal.
Politely.
Pay for the meal. You can still hold the door open and then never speak to her again.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a great plan. That's a nice filter. I also think you should ask people who they voted for. And if they say, I don't want to tell you, well, that's fine. They don't have to tell you. But if they're like, oh, yeah, I voted for Kamala Harris. Listen, I think who a person votes for is a very important thing. It kind of shows like who they are and how they view the world and how they process problems and solutions and what they see as solutions for certain problems and how they view the other people that they interact with in the world. And I think that's a pretty important thing to know about a person. I don't think that people who hold opposite political beliefs can truly coexist peacefully with one another.
Not in this current political environment. It used to be the case.
I think maybe, yeah, any of them. But I think it tells you something about a person.
You can differ on some issues and still get along with people. I don't think that's... But I think if you're advocating for ideologies that are completely, let's say, antithetical to the truth, then I don't think you're ever going to get along with that person.
Like, yeah, I tell my wife about that whole, Epstein thing with Trump, that whole story that came out in a couple of days. And she's like, well, 1993 would have been a good time to bring that up.
Yeah. I just had a cat hair in my eye.
Oh, there you go.
I like what Bailey said here. Rogan before Hogan's, So.
Number 3, thank God for legacy media. We get a picture. Charlie described the picture on the left, and of course, we have to clarify for all the readers out there, some information you might want to know.
So, Donald Trump posted on Truth, it looks like. I think that's Truth, or Instagram. Which one is that?
I think that's Instagram.
That's Instagram. Posted a picture of himself looking buff. I mean, the man's in a Steelers outfit, a Steelers uniform. Looking pretty buff, tan. He's obviously did 1,000 bicep curls before this picture was taken.
Yeah, immediately before.
By the way, it's clearly either an AI generated photo or a photoshopped photo because that exists before AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Essentially, Donald Trump's face is on the body of an NFL player. And I don't know what the caption reads, but that's what the picture he posted, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Newsweek wanted to clarify that Donald Trump has shared what is likely an AI-generated image on his Truth Social account showing him as a player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as if anyone was questioning whether or not Trump had signed a new contract.
Yeah. Can he play for the Steelers and be the president at the same time? That's what I want to know.
For the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Does he have to play for $1? I don't know what the rules are on this. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous that they would feel the need to do that. And it just shows you how dumb they think all their readers really are. And if that's the kind of AI you're worried about, you're dumb, which is why you're on Dumb Bleep of the Week right now. Congratulations, you made it to number 3. Number 4, we talked about this yesterday, so we'll go quickly. There were rumors swirling about. I have been told that Trump groped a minor at one of his donor dinners, and there's video. Holy S-word. It sounds like Donald Trump was caught on video fondling a young girl who happened to be the daughter of one of his wealthy donors. Ed Krasenstein said if Donald Trump groped a minor at one of his donor dinners and it was caught on video, would MAGA still support him? And it's, just important to mention that this got 14.4 million views between these 3 posts right here, these 3 posts. And this is from the crowd who doesn't want to put out any disinformation, and they think that, speech needs to be policed quite a bit because of all the disinformation online. Now, there could still, in fact, be a video coming. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Newsweek also posted that there will be a very damaging story about Donald Trump coming out in the next day or two. And I believe that if that story does exist and it's about to come out, it will come out shortly after viral videos from his Joe Rogan appearance start swirling around online. So they can try and break up that news cycle with that podcast episode. That's typically how they do these things. So we'll see if this story is correct, but this ended up being... Now, you have to understand, Brian Krasenstein posted this. He said, yes, this video is real. And it's the video that we showed you guys yesterday of someone introducing him. He grabs her by the hand, tries to pull her back and do the side kiss on the cheek kind of thing, which is a super normal thing to do. It's slowed down to about a quarter speed to make it look... It's supposed to make it look worse than what it is, I would assume, even though there's nothing bad about this video whatsoever. Now, he posted, yes, this video is real, after he posted about 10 times that there was a video of him groping a minor that was about to come out. And then it was presented as if this were the video. Maybe the video, might not be the video. It was a big nothing regardless. Kamala Dreams, who has a really big page, also posted that this is the video of Trump groping a minor. They say they think that this is the video of him groping a minor. This gets 1.6 million views. They did delete this post. By the way, I tried to go to it this morning. It was gone.
Did they really?
Yeah.
God.
And then Krasenstein posted out, update on alleged Trump video. From everything I can tell, there is a story being shopped around to multiple media personalities and outlets. My guess is that the sourcing isn't great and therefore nobody has run with it. It's also possible that they're looking for backup sourcing. I don't honestly believe that it is related to Trump groping an underage girl. I honestly feel that was just a rumor that somebody made up, but I cannot say for certain it isn't. There's something out there, but I'm not sure if it will have reliable enough sourcing to be the bombshell that some people think. Concentrate on voting. He deleted all of his posts leading up to the post of that video, talking about how there was a video about to come out of Trump groping a minor, like including the one back here.
That was Ed.
From Ed. Mm-hmm. They basically just retweet each other's posts all the time. Like
same tweets.
There's the same stuff most of the time. They deleted all those posts leading up to the video.
I have a question.
And then left the video and then posted saying, yeah, there were rumors going around that there was a video, but it doesn't seem like it's true. Millions of views leading up to this.
My question is, did they get paid?
Well, they get paid from X like the other people do.
No, they said, go back to his tweet. Go back to his tweet where he said, from everything I can tell, there's a story being shopped around.
Well, they mean shopped around to different news outlets.
Multiple media personalities.
Yeah.
And outlets, meaning they're saying, hey, here's a bombshell. Will you post about this upcoming bombshell?
Yeah, I mean, someone who has a story, has an exclusive, they will ask Fox to pay them for it or NBC to pay them for it if they think it's a credible story because they've got the ownership of it. That happens with a bunch of the stuff. They get paid for it for sure.
I mean, do these people get paid just for drumming up the...
Well, it's possible. It's very possible.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. forkfest.party.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US Vice President Kamala Harris would deliver her closing argument to voters on Tuesday in a major speech in the heart of the nation's capital. She'll speak at the Ellipse, a site next to the White House, where President Donald Trump addressed a mob of his supporters before they launched a deadly riot on Congress in an attempt to overturn the last election in 2020. Benji Hire has more.
A week to go until polls close, and this is Kamala Harris's chance to offer her final pitch to America, framing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. Tens of thousands of people are expected to attend her speech, focused on a future of freedom and hope, themes central to her campaign. This is about symbolism as much as substance. The location, the timing, all intentional, sending a message that draws a stark contrast between the vice president and the former president, who remain deadlocked in the race for the Oval Office. Benji Hire, Washington.
A week before the US presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump has attacked his rival Kamala Harris, accusing her of trying to destroy the country. The former president said the Biden administration's border policies have hurt the US.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders, decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
It comes as the Trump campaign tries to distance itself from racist remarks made at a rally on Sunday in New York. Trump spoke from Florida.
No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad should ever be allowed to be the president of the United States. Can't have that. So I'm running on a plan to save America. We're going to save America. We have no choice. It's the greatest there is. We love it, and we're going to save it. And she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction.
And Donald Trump's former advisor and close ally Steve Bannon is set to be released from prison on Tuesday. He spent 4 months in a federal prison in Connecticut for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena over the January 6th riots at the US Capitol. Ira Spitzer reports.
Steve Bannon's release comes just a week before the presidential election, and the longtime Trump confidant has scheduled a news conference at a New York City hotel this afternoon. Bannon, who served for a while as Trump's chief White House strategist, is an influential and controversial conservative commentator. He was a prominent voice pushing Trump's false election fraud claims after the former president's loss in 2020. Bannon is expected to dive into the fray for the final week of campaigning, although it's still unknown what role he might play in the Trump campaign.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at Iran's capacity to take further military action against Israel. Even if it wants to, some Western defense analysts believe that Israel's Friday night attack on Tehran, in retaliation for this month's earlier ballistic missile attack by the Iranians on Israel, has left the Iranian military reeling. The Israelis went after what they called military targets, including several fuel mixing facilities, the places where Iran's military prepared the solid fuel that is used in the country's ballistic arsenal. Professor Gwydion Prinz is a former member of the UK Chief of Defence's Strategy Advisory Panel and a former NATO advisor.
I don't think it's removed absolutely all their capability. They obviously will have a supply of viable ballistic missiles and of drones, but there are 20 odd of these very complicated mixing machines the Iranians will have great difficulty to remanufacture them or to get them from abroad. It means that if you can't manufacture the fuel, then you don't have any ability to make the missiles fly. And so that was clearly what the Israelis did. So Israel can defend itself in the short term against whatever arsenal they still have, but they won't have the ability to replace that arsenal quickly.
Over the weekend, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said the Israeli attack on his country should neither be downplayed nor exaggerated. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. US presidential candidate Kamala Harris is due to give closing arguments tonight at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., site of a major Trump Stop the Steal rally from 2020 after the last election. Contender Donald Trump has attacked Harris's border policy at a speech in Florida as the campaign tries to distance itself from racist comments made by a comedian at one of his rallies. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
Last month, the FDA approved Hallucex, a new class of weight loss drug that helps users avoid overeating by producing nightmarish hallucinations whenever food is around. Hallucex targets the brain's cerebral cortex, stimulating the centers responsible for fear and visual processing. Test subjects reported an unprecedented decrease in appetite and showed dramatic weight loss, with only 18% reporting night terrors or subsequent cardiac arrest.
It's designed to make fatty and sugary foods even scarier. An apple just looks like it has fangs, but a milkshake will threaten you and your family by name.
Earlier incarnations of the drug proved to be too powerful and produced mental states in which test subjects no longer believed that food had ever existed. An unshakable belief that the subject had to eat all of the food on the planet in order to prevent food from rising up and destroying the human race.
No, you don't understand. I have to do this.
Or the conviction that food could be negotiated with diplomatically. With the Lab Report, I'm Aisha Patel.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
What's up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie on the Free Talk Live network, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. We are in the middle of Dumb Bleep of the Week right now. That's where we count down the dumbest things. The live group, the Fed Haters Club, they vote on what the dumbest thing is. Join GML.com if you want to vote every single week for Dumb Bleep of the Week. We just did number 4. How about number 5?
Probably comes from Russia.
This one's called Steel Targets. This is Lucas Kuntz from Missouri, who's running against Josh Hawley. I don't like Josh Hawley, so I don't really care who wins this election. He went shooting with his friend Adam Kinzinger. So they got to hang out with some union workers while exercising our freedom. Always have your first aid kit handy. Shrapnel can always fly when you hit a target like today, and you've got to be ready to go. We had our 4 first aid kits, so we were able to take care of the situation, and I'm glad Ryan is okay and was able to continue reporting. And what you see in this picture, anyone who ever goes out shooting, I assume you have already seen this. Here they are. They're shooting. We'll talk about the table here in a bit. They're shooting steel targets from about 6 yards away with high-powered rifles. And they end up getting hit by some shrapnel. Okay? So that's kind of funny. Someone gets hit. Reporter gets hit. On top of that, I just want to point out they got bottles of Tannerite on the table also while they're shooting these steel targets at the same time. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, this guy, Sean Davis, broke it down really well. Charlie, you want to read the breakdown here?
Yeah. He said, "I'm sorry, but this tweet is insane. It contains multitudes. The longer you look at the photos, the worse it gets. Number one, they are shooting steel at 5 to 7 yards with rifles, which could have killed somebody given the force with which the bullets will ricochet off the steel targets at the distance. You would instantly get permanently banned at my range if you did that. 0 questions asked. Number 2, Kinzinger holds his rifle like a complete ninny, and that will never not be funny to me. And pro tip for Kinzinger, the eye protection works better when it's on your eyes, not on your head. You stupid idiot. Try using your brain for once. You're lucky you still have one after today. Number 3, Kinzinger is for some reason using a high-powered scope, at least a 3 to 9x by the looks of it, to shoot a target 5 yards away. Number 4, there is a bolt-action rifle on the table, so presumably someone was also using that to shoot steel at 5 yards. Insane.
There's more.
Number 5, there are at least 2 canisters of explosive tannerite powder on the table, downrange from where guns are being fired. That could have potentially killed or seriously injured someone if someone shot it, or if someone was stupid enough to be shooting close enough to steel for a ricochet to hit it. Number 6, at one point, the cameraman is downrange from all the guns, which, given the violations we found so far, we can assume are not safe and unloaded. Way to think that one through. Dummy. Number 7, and these morons are so stupid that even after shooting someone whose injury was due entirely to negligence, they thought it would be an awesome idea to post the evidence of their idiocy for all the world to see. Lawyer up, dummies, because the reporter you could have killed has you dead to rights. Absolutely mind-blowing insanity from a candidate for a political party that wants to take away your guns because it claims you can't safely own them.
Now, the guy, Lucas Kuntz? I don't remember. Kuntz. Lucas Kuntz is his name. This kind of adds on top of it. Here's a post from Lucas Kuntz in 2021. Says, "Hey, Mansion Man, my offer still stands for Marine-led weapons safety training before you get your next gun. It might just keep you out of prison before Election Day." So he's offering to lead a safety training for this person that I believe he was running against. He was running against this guy, McCluskey. You guys might remember. This was, really stupid way for people to hold guns when there's people around and stuff like that. But they were reacting to a mob that was coming through their neighborhood. I believe they got arrested, all that kind of stuff. Lucas Kuntz posted also in 2021, "This clown doesn't even know how to handle a firearm, but that didn't stop him from playing toy soldier outside his mansion. Now he's the Missouri GOP's top candidate for U.S. Senate." And that's the guy who was shooting the steel target at 6 yards, and someone ended up getting injured while they had tannerite on the table.
This all seems pretty dumb.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. It's a nice, fun one.
It's
just people legitimately being dumb.
And I don't see a level anywhere.
Not a single level there at all. How about Tim Walz on The Daily Show talking to libertarians? Okay. He says that libertarians have been given permission to vote for Kamala Harris.
By Josh Eckel?
Not just by Josh, but by one of Josh's longtime friends.
Oh.
Yeah, so let's hear who that is.
The Cheney thing, do we really have to do that?
Look, it goes broader than that. Look, Bernie Sanders, Dick Cheney, Taylor Swift.
No.
That one. The shooting?
No.
Having the Cheneys on board?
No. You can't Dick Cheney or Taylor Swift. No.
We're a big tent.
What country did Taylor Swift get us to invade? No.
Yeah. No, don't you think, though, that, and I do this, I believe this, there is still a core group of folks out there, your point being, and not joke, the don't tread on me, the Reagan piece of this, the libertarian piece, but the constitutional piece, there are a lot of people out there. I think Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney give permission to those folks who want to find a reason to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to take back your announcement from yesterday. I didn't know if you knew this, but Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris has given you, a libertarian, permission to feel okay voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I know you've been wondering, how can I listen to Dick Cheney's ideas on things?
Yeah.
And this is one of the ways you can do it. It seems like that Lucas Kuntz and Adam Kinzinger were also listening to Dick Cheney's advice on some things. But this is the way you can do it. Right there.
Look, I may have prematurely announced yesterday my intentions. And that's because I've been waiting for Dick Cheney to see what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait any longer.
Yeah.
And then now that I know where Dick Cheney has placed his endorsement. Yeah.
And now that Tim Walz laid out that idea for you, because you might have heard it a couple weeks ago, but you didn't really put it together.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big guy, so I'm a big fan of big tents.
You like big tents. You need big tents because you're a bigger guy.
It's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
tall tents, at least.
I think, God, this works. And I think Jon Stewart did a good job there of calling them out. This does not work in their favor whatsoever.
No.
I mean, Dick Cheney is not a guy that people like. He literally helped lie us into one of the biggest wars in the most costly wars in the United States history that a lot of people don't like. And what happened? I still don't know the answer to this question. What happened to the left being against war? It's so insane to me that the parties have completely shifted.
I think they were probably against war because it was a Republican war at that time.
They weren't getting the money from the war machine. Republicans were.
I think the war, 9/11, the war, all that, maybe kind of helped keep George Bush in office, for 8 years, and anti-war was the best way for them to go, and it maybe was never real. I'm not really sure what happened to those people, and I'm not really sure how, before it. Just imagine if Dick Cheney would have endorsed Donald Trump instead. What do you think people on the left would have been saying about Dick Cheney afterwards? They would have been calling him a war criminal, mass murderer, someone who lied to someone who should be in jail, all this kind of stuff, if he would have endorsed Donald Trump. But he endorsed Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter anymore. Guarantee you they had those beliefs about him beforehand, but now they don't care. Because Trump is Hitler, so he's worse than Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
And so that's what's most important. Okay, number 7, another fun one. Matt Walsh says, I can't imagine a better illustration of government inefficiency than this video. This is the CBP. They say, along with our partners at FEMA, we will continue with disaster recovery as a result of Hurricane Milton. The safety of the American people is our top priority. And this is them moving debris. They're moving debris. About 100 of them. About 100 people moving this debris from this one spot. And you see the way the government works as each person touches the log. I wish it was going to my fireplace, honestly. I need some firewood right now. Now, what you also see around is that there's pickup trucks. There's going to be bulldozers, track hose, backhoes, regular hose, too, probably.
In different area codes.
And all different kinds of area codes for sure. And you need about, let's be fair, you need about 50 guys to stand next to each other and carry each piece itself. Now, I think it'd be better if they had even more guys sandwiched between those dudes, because they need to get some jobs. This is a jobs program, I don't know why they don't cut those in half. They shouldn't be carrying that big of a log at one time.
Who is CBP anyway? What is that?
Well, when I hear CBP, I assume it's Customs and Border Patrol, but I don't know why they would be working up there. So is there a different CBP?
Customs and Border Protection.
Customs and Border Protection.
For real?
Well, the border's taken care of.
They
don't need to worry. They don't need to worry about that.
So wait, hang on. These people, they're in Florida? Working on the border there?
Yeah, there's technically there's border, okay, you can leave America from Florida. Maybe they're getting these pieces to go help build the wall. They're just going to stack up a bunch of logs up there. Give them too much crap for it. They work at ports. Okay, thank you. There had to be a reason. Yeah, okay. That makes a little bit more sense. They have to police, they have to protect our ports. And we thank you for your service. How about number 8?
That seemed like hard work.
It did.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make fun of someone on the right real fast, if you guys don't mind. It's important to be fair.
Yeah.
It's important to be honest. It helps you when you are making arguments against the people that you disagree with, for them to not be able to look at something you did that was really dumb and biased and didn't make any sense. So when you remain honest in your arguments, it makes it more difficult for people to use something against you later on. It strengthens the arguments that you make when you're honest all the time. So we'll do this real quick. Benny Johnson, the paid Russian influencer, Benny Johnson, he built a gas station probably took over a gas station that already existed. With the environmental rules, it would have taken the entire 4 years to build this gas station probably, but I'm betting he took over a different gas station.
I was going to say, how quick did he get this thing up from scratch? He built this from scratch?
He had to have taken over another one. He built a gas station and he just charged $1.84 for gas because that's what gas was at during the week of Trump's presidency. That was the lowest point it had hit.
At one gas station.
For Trump's presidency. At some point during the, and I get it. That was great. We had super low gas prices when no one was allowed to drive anywhere.
Yeah.
We did.
Whenever they shut everything down.
What's my message to Donald Trump?
Listen, it's a decent idea.
Thank you for making gas cheap again.
I just want them to use
I need them back in the
a real price.
Put Trump back in the money flow.
Make America great again. Look, she got the pants. Make this gas great again. Trump's gonna put those in the store. Can we do the Trump dance? I'll do the Trump dance.
Oh, that's it. Oh, we gotta put some more hips into this. I don't like that. Put some hips into that. Come on.
All right, Trump. We've done the remix of the Trump dance.
Trump. That's the price we're going to charge people today at the I-9 Food Mart in downtown Tampa Bay. Now, this is an area that has been hit hard by 2 back-to-back hurricanes.
All right, so just to be clear, he did not build a gas station.
Yep.
I think we've disproved that lie from his post. He didn't. He branded a gas station with a bunch of Trump stuff and put $1.84. I know that this is an annoying dumb bleep, but I really want people to make good arguments. I want them to be non-biased, and I want them to use like real facts and figures, because if the truth is on your side, then you shouldn't have to use what is obviously a skewed number, like the $1.84 a gallon. It was during the COVID lockdowns when many people around the country were not allowed to go anywhere. Not much travel.
Not only
happening.
were they not allowed to go anywhere, but people just weren't traveling. They were staying home.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just basic supply and demand. This is why we go back to like price gouging isn't price gouging.
No, we were price gouging.
Yeah, exactly.
The gas stations.
Here's what happened is the gas stations had tanks full of gas and no one was there purchasing them. And they had spent money on their tanks underneath the ground to be filled up with gas. And they were like, hey, we need to figure out a way to get people here to buy gas from us. And they kept lowering their prices until people showed up.
That's the way that works.
That's how that works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trump had nothing to do with it.
You should use the argument instead, maybe what the average price was during Trump's term, even though that low price has worked into the average, but at least the average price would make a little bit more sense. The 4-year average price for Trump was around $250. This white line right here is a 4-year average price. So at the end of Trump's term, it is giving you the 4-year average price for Trump's gas around the country. $250 is that number.
$250
right there. $250. Right now, it's around $322. And the average during Biden's term is around $340-ish. So I get it. $1.84 sounds way better. But if you are someone who, when someone on the left says to you, Trump lost 3 million jobs during his term as president, if you then come back and say, well, that's because of COVID and we had lockdowns and all this stuff. Okay. Well, then don't use COVID numbers for anything else.
I think I'm going to build a Clinton gas station. You know,
you should.
When gas was 87 cents.
Yeah. Let's build an FDR gas station.
84 cents.
Okay, number 9. We got a few more left. Musk has been in secret contact with Putin since 2022, says bombshell new report.
Oh,
this is from the Wall Street Journal.
Yep. And now Musk is connected to Trump. This all makes sense.
You already connected all the dots right there.
Yeah. This is Russian rockets. That's,
It's election interference.
It is.
That's what's going on. Go ahead, Charlie.
All right. Tech billionaire Elon Musk has been in regular contact with Russian President Vladimir Putin since late 2022, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. According to the journal's intelligence sources, Musk and Putin continued to have talks into this year, even as Musk began to ramp up his criticisms of U.S. military support for Ukraine and became actively involved in the election campaign of Republican candidate and former President Donald Trump. Putin once asked the entrepreneur to avoid activating his Starlink satellite internet service over Taiwan as a favor to Chinese President Xi Jinping. Two people briefed on the request said.
All right, so we got no information on who is making this report. First off, I don't care if Musk has been in contact with Putin, like just on the first thing. There's this weird thing now where diplomacy or trying to have friendly relationships with people has just sort of gone out the window. I think it's a good idea to try and work with these people. Instead, if you don't talk to them, you're inevitably just going to run towards World War III. And so I think it's a good idea to talk with these people and try to maintain relationships with these people to lessen the likelihood that we're all going to kill each other. I think that's a pretty good idea. There was a story of that Trump gave Putin COVID test kits at a time when millions of Americans were getting COVID or something like that. Okay, how many test kits did he give him? First off, like 5. Like how many test kits did he give him? They weren't widely available yet in the U.S. But you know what's also good? Someone who runs the country that has the most nuclear weapons in the world, owing you a favor. You know, doing something for them that they want you to do so they owe you later on. I think that's a pretty good idea too. Now, the one thing with Elon Musk, there is this report that China asked Musk to not provide internet service over Taiwan. It's from Starlink. This one is questionable to me, and I don't like it. Okay, but Starlink is not available in Taiwan. It's available in the islands that are right next to Taiwan. It's available in other areas over to the left of Taiwan. It's not available in Taiwan. It says service date, soon. No date for when they're going to be able to do it. So there's a good chance that Musk is not allowing Starlink in Taiwan, even though they probably have plenty good coverage over Taiwan, because China doesn't want him to. Because Musk does a lot of business with China, and it would destroy Musk's net wealth if China decided not to do business with Tesla. That would be really bad. And so there are legitimate questions about that. That's something that I actually don't like. If you're going to provide the internet all over the world, and then you're going to let one country tell you that you can't provide it to another country, that's a problem. Okay? That's something that is not good. But what has happened now is exactly what Charlie led with. Okay? The right-wing billionaire palling around with our enemies, using his social media platform to push their misinformation to interfere in our election, and his money to elect their puppet shouldn't have national security clearance and government contracts. So this is moving into election interference. In fact, here is MSNBC's Joe Scarborough talking about the Russia hoax and how it turns out it was true. Because look at what's happening with Elon Musk.
By the way, how fascinating. One more link to Russia. The guy who is all in for Donald Trump has a relationship with Putin that he's calling all the time that we're finding out now. And again, Russia hoax? Really? This is what Marco Rubio's Republican Senate Intelligence Committee said about the Russian hoax in their report about the 2016 Trump campaign, that it caused, quote, a grave counterintelligence threat that made Donald Trump's campaign susceptible to malign Russian influence. That comes from the Republican Senate Intelligence Committee. And we keep seeing these things come up, and people will write in the Wall Street Journal, Russia hoax, Russia hoax. Right. Like, if they keep saying it enough, and if Donald Trump keeps saying it enough, that somehow people will be cowed to forget what Marco Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Mueller report and everybody else that's looked into this has said. And now, what a coincidence that Elon Musk is on his phone pal.
My God. They really are going to do this again, aren't they? If Trump wins. We'll talk about this clip and more of this idea that they're setting up Russia hoax number 3, 4, 5, something like that. I don't know which one it is that they're setting up. This is Liberty at Night on the Free Talk Live Network. Remember, every single day of the week we are called Good Morning Liberty. 1,393 episodes so far in your favorite podcast app. Watch on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or Odyssey. The conclusion of Dumb Bleep of the Week comes up next.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US Vice President Kamala Harris would deliver her closing argument to voters on Tuesday in a major speech in the heart of the nation's capital. She'll speak at the Ellipse, a site next to the White House, where President Donald Trump addressed a mob of his supporters before they launched a deadly riot on Congress in an attempt to overturn the last election in 2020. Benji Hire has more.
A week to go until polls close, and this is Kamala Harris's chance to offer her final pitch to America, framing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. Tens of thousands of people are expected to attend her speech, focused on a future of freedom and hope, themes central to her campaign. This is about symbolism as much as substance. The location, the timing, all intentional, sending a message that draws a stark contrast between the vice president and the former president, who remain deadlocked in the race for the Oval Office. Benji Hire, Washington.
A week before the US presidential election, Republican candidate Donald Trump has attacked his rival Kamala Harris, accusing her of trying to destroy the country. The former president said the Biden administration's border policies have hurt the US.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders, decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
It comes as the Trump campaign tries to distance itself from racist remarks made at a rally on Sunday in New York. Trump spoke from Florida.
No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad should ever be allowed to be the president of the United States. Can't have that. So I'm running on a plan to save America. We're going to save America. We have no choice. It's the greatest there is. We love it, and we're going to save it. And she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction.
And Donald Trump's former advisor and close ally Steve Bannon is set to be released from prison on Tuesday. He spent 4 months in a federal prison in Connecticut for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena over the January 6th riots at the US Capitol. Ira Spitzer reports.
Steve Bannon's release comes just a week before the presidential election, and the longtime Trump confidant has scheduled a news conference at a New York City hotel this afternoon. Bannon, who served for a while as Trump's chief White House strategist, is an influential and controversial conservative commentator. He was a prominent voice pushing Trump's false election fraud claims after the former president's loss in 2020. Bannon is expected to dive into the fray for the final week of campaigning, although it's still unknown what role he might play in the Trump campaign.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Link to Russia. The guy who is all in for Donald Trump has a relationship with Putin that he's calling all the time, that we're finding out now. And again, Russia hoax? Really? This is what Marco Rubio's Republican Senate Intelligence Committee said about the Russian hoax in their report about the 2016 Trump campaign, that it caused, quote, a grave counterintelligence threat that made Donald Trump's campaign susceptible to malign Russian influence. That comes from the Republican Senate Intelligence Committee. And we keep seeing these things come up, and people will write in the Wall Street Journal, Russia hoax, Russia hoax.
Right.
Like, if they keep saying it enough, and if Donald Trump keeps saying it enough, that somehow people will be cowed to forget what Marco Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Mueller report and everybody else that's looked into this has said. And now, what a coincidence that Elon Musk is on a, his phone pal.
So be prepared for sure if Donald Trump wins this election. Especially, he would probably need to win Pennsylvania, and Musk has spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania. If that happens, this will once again be Russian influence that led to Trump winning, along with a bunch of other things, like Musk buying the election, even though Kamala is going to spend like 3 times as much as Donald Trump on this election. But somehow it's Musk's $70 million that he's going to spend, even though Kamala spent $270 million in September. Musk is going to spend $70 million, and that is how he bought the election for Donald Trump somehow.
Through Russia.
For Russia, probably.
The fact that media is going to continue this Russia hoax, there's nothing I think that makes me angrier about the Donald Trump situation. I mean, they have tried to pin Russia on him since he won the election in 2016. And not just pinning on him. I mean, they impeached the guy twice. They've ran with this narrative that is proven over and over and over again to be false. And now they're going to bring it up again.
They're going to do it again right before the election.
It's so insane.
And by the way,
it's so insane to me.
From a news report that cites no sources, names no people. They're unnamed people that have intelligence on the matter. And that's it. We don't know who is saying this. I mean, you know how easy it would be to write an article that says that sources under the condition of anonymity said that this was going on, and then you can write whatever you want after that. And I'm not saying this isn't true, but I'm saying I really don't pay attention to stuff when no one is named.
I don't trust I don't trust the journalism anymore. I think used to you could have some anonymous sources and like have some like breaking news, and people would trust the fact that the journalists did their job of journalism and vetting the sources to make sure that it was true. But we've seen time and time again, especially over the last 4 years, of sources reporting anonymously where the journalists haven't done their job.
Over the last 9 years, really.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying it's gotten really bad over the last 4 years.
Keith Olbermann.
And they use it as a way of advancing an agenda and not actually getting the truth, not doing their jobs and telling the truth.
There's a weird thing now. I guess maybe this has always happened, but there's a weird thing now where newspaper outlets are endorsing candidates, and maybe that's always been the case. Maybe it always has, but I was not aware that news outlets endorsed candidates. Doesn't that kind of completely defy the entire notion and idea of being a news outlet?
Right.
I mean, that including
having unbiased, news.
Like the Atlantic, the one who ran this newest Trump is Hitler story. A couple weeks ago, they endorsed Kamala Harris. It was the top thing at the top of their page when you went to the Atlantic's website, saying that they endorsed Kamala Harris. Why would I ever? People think it's weird that we don't believe some of this stuff that comes out. Like, you clearly endorsed the candidate. You said, we want this person to win. Here's a bad thing about the other guy. And it's weird that we don't believe it?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Man.
Come on.
It's not just them. The New York Post just announced that they endorsed Donald Trump. I don't get that. I really don't.
Yeah.
I guess we've completely given up on this idea that news outlets are reporting the news. That they're actually just propagandizing in favor of whatever their biases are. That's not, I don't know. I don't like that. That's not good. Keith Olbermann, who's always hinged, he's never unhinged. He's a very hinged person. Same topic, dumb bleep number 9 here, Charlie.
All right, we need to arrest and detain Elon Musk immediately. He is operating on behalf of Russia. Cancel all contracts, seize his facilities, lock him away in a military facility. Gitmo. Now at POTUS. Not tomorrow. Now. Not in 2 weeks. Not tomorrow. Now.
So I was told that Donald Trump wanted to lock up his political opponents. I don't know if you were told that.
Yeah.
And he's a fascist too. Yeah. Dictator, fascist, those kind of things. In fact, Magoo just posted this tweet from Kamala Harris. Looks like it's from today. What's today's date? 25th, today. Donald Trump has been very clear that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. You know who does that? Dictators do that. Just absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever. You know, the guy with...
her administration!
The guy with 90-something...
has done this!
But, you see, everything that they did was on the up and up. It was all true. It was all right. It was all just. None of it was weaponization.
The appellate court
whatsoever.
just threw it out!
Some of it. There's some things thrown out. Some things we're still waiting on. But, yeah.
Essentially, the appeals court threw it out. The appellate court said, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? And then the prosecutors are essentially begging for the appellate court not to issue sanctions.
Yeah. Okay, we got to speed it up. Got to speed it up real fast. Number 10, really quickly, there was a U.S. study on puberty blockers that did not get published. And the doctor who did the study literally said because they didn't publish it because of politics, because the study did not show what they wanted it to show.
Science.
They actually said that.
Science.
Actually said it out loud. Okay. So they ran this, influential doctor and advocate of adolescent gender treatment said she had not published a long-awaited study on puberty-blocking drugs because the charged American political environment began a study in 2015 as part of a broader multi-million-dollar federal project on transgender use. She and colleagues recruited 95 children from across the country and gave them puberty blockers, lock her up, which stave off the permanent physical changes, puberty. Researchers followed the children for 2 years to see if the treatments improved their mental health. An older Dutch study found that puberty blockers improved well-being, results that inspired clinics around the world to regularly prescribe the medications as part of what is now called gender-affirming care. That study followed the children for about 6 months after they started the puberty blockers, and we don't really know any of the information.
I still don't like to call it gender-affirming. This is like, it's gender anti-affirming.
Yeah.
It's like affirming that
it's conversion therapy.
That you're not. Yeah, exactly. You're not the gender you are.
It's gender conversion therapy.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But the American trial did not find a similar trend. Dr. Olson Kennedy said in a wide-ranging interview, puberty blockers did not lead to mental health improvement, she said, most likely because the children were already doing well when the study began. They're in really good shape when they come in, and they're in really good shape after 2 years, said Dr. Olson Kennedy, who runs the country's largest youth gender clinic at the Children's Hospital. Kind of feel like they could have considered that when they chose the children or whatever. They basically said that the Dutch study, a quarter of them were depressed when they started. And in this study, everyone was just fine and dandy, thank you, when they started. And now they're not going to publish their results. What I miss? I miss
Look
something.
at what Costco said. It completely ruins his chances now. Yeah, of winning.
I didn't see the post. Sorry. All right.
I guess I can say it out loud. Nobody really knows. Costco said big blow to Chase Oliver. Really just taking his campaign down.
Oh, man.
With this study.
Actually, I think he was probably behind holding back the study. There's a conspiracy here.
That's so funny. That's such a funny inside libertarian joke.
All right, number 11, we got Obama talking about freedom.
I do not think we've ever had an election with candidates who understand freedom so differently. For Donald Trump and his cronies, freedom means that the powerful can do whatever they please. That's his definition of freedom.
Just see, this is Barack Obama, former president of the United States, talking about this.
Of freedom. I want to fire workers for trying to organize a union. I should be free to do so. They want the freedom to throw out votes if they lose an election. They want to control what women can and can't do to their bodies. In other words, for Trump, freedom is getting away with stuff. And it's like he said in the middle of the pandemic, when he said, I do not take any responsibility at all. I'm not sure any American president has ever uttered those words other than Donald Trump. I do not take any...
He might have been the only one that uttered those words, but he's not the only one that ever showed that before. Now, they're doing this thing. The thing is, they're the party of freedom. And of course, it's the freedom. Now, if you do the opposite of the things he just mentioned, first one he said, freedom to fire workers who are trying to organize a union. I don't know. I think an employer should have the freedom to fire anyone who works at their business.
Yeah.
So they want the freedom to force an employer to keep workers that they don't want to keep and keep paying them to work at their job. It's a pretty good one.
Or to be at their job.
Yeah, to actually
work.
We haven't covered this Boeing strike. It's getting pretty bad for Boeing right now. It's pretty crazy. What was the other one that they did? Organize a union, freedom to throw out votes if they lose an election. Now that could be they want the freedom to have illegal votes in their elections. That's the freedom that they're fighting for, because I believe Trump was talking about trying to find illegal votes in the election that they could throw out. Let's go through these votes and see if any of them were illegal. But you should have the freedom to keep those votes. They want freedom. And of course, you should have the freedom to kill kids. Got to have the freedom.
Yeah.
Kill the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans just don't want that. And that is the freedom that they are fighting. They are the party of freedom. And the number one freedom that they are fighting for is for you to be able to make a bad decision, not want to live with the consequences of your decision, and kill a human being in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Party of freedom.
Yep.
Right there. That's good stuff. Let me tell you what.
Well, and the other thing you have to know that he's doing is he's creating the dichotomy, and he's painting the picture of like, this is what this person believes, and this is what this person believes. So the obvious choice is what the person we want.
Yeah.
That's the obvious choice. But they're not giving you, I saw someone on the other day, they made a post on Facebook, and, this is for all my Trump friends, and they listed all these things, most of which aren't true. Like, why are you voting for this guy? And they listed all these things, most of which aren't true. And so it's like you're creating an illusion of choice with falsehoods.
Yeah. One of the crazy things I've noticed a lot is people saying, don't you remember all the chaos while Donald Trump was president? I mean, don't you remember how crazy that time was, Charlie? You endorsed, you said you're going to vote for Trump. Don't you remember how crazy everything was during that time when he was president? And I got to thinking about that question, like, don't you remember how crazy it was? The crazy part about while Trump was president was all the crazy people on the left being crazy the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at actual things that Trump did, there are things that we as libertarians will disagree with a lot. But the craziness, the absolute insanity from Trump's presidency is from the people on the left throwing fits like children in the aisle at Walmart when they don't get a toy. And that's why it was crazy. Like, when your kid's like, don't you remember how crazy it is to go to Walmart? You want to go to, don't you remember how crazy it was last time? They're the ones that were throwing the fit in the aisle. That's why it was crazy.
It was crazy because of you.
And so that's I've kind of been thinking a lot about that lately, but we got to move on to dumb bleed number 12. Number 12 is all the October surprises that came out over the last few days. Okay. We've got the former model, Stacey Williams, claims Trump groped her in 1993 after being introduced by Jeffrey Epstein. So this is a news story going around, going to be severely damaging to Donald Trump's campaign. First off, it's dumb that people even think that would be damaging to Donald Trump's campaign. The guy's already been found liable in civil court for sexually assaulting someone. And so if you think like, oh, here's a story from 31 years ago about him groping me one time, like that's not going to work. He's got a higher approval rating than he's ever had in any of the times that he has been running for president. His approval rating is higher right now than it's ever been. Okay. That's after being found civilly liable for not raping, but sexual assault or whatever it was. And then all these other cases as well. So like this isn't going to do anything. And who's going to believe it anyway? Who's going to believe that this was so important from 31 years ago? You didn't talk about it in 2016, didn't talk about it in 2020, any of the years in between those. You talk about it 2 weeks before the election.
Well, now she has the courage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not during the Me Too movement.
No.
Not then.
Nope. But it's probably because of these Diddy allegations. Diddy.
P. Diddy.
Yeah, since these are coming to light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, she didn't have it when Jeffrey Epstein, was on trial.
Oh, none of that.
Or not on trial, but arrested.
When Maxwell was on.
When Maxwell was on trial, that didn't come out. None of that came out.
Didn't.
Just so happened to be 13 days before the election of 2024.
Yeah. Trump, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, from The Atlantic, who endorses Kamala Harris for president, from a guy that Trump fired, is the person who says he needs the kind of generals that Hitler had. He may have said it. He might not have. I have no idea. Do you have any idea?
No, I'm not John Kelly.
You don't know.
I have no idea.
Inside of this story, they also said, Trump said, $60,000? Doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a Mexican? Almost went into my Rush Hour 2 at that point. Like, who do you think you're burying? Chelsea Clinton? Like that thing?
Yeah.
Anyhow, $60,000. Now her family comes out and says that's not true. Other people who were in the room for this conversation say it's not true. But one person says it happened, and so that's the story. All right. We've got, Trump was enraged by funeral costs for effing Mexican, U.S. soldier report. This is not going to do any damage because it's not written in Spanish. You know? How are they going to affect the vote?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Doesn't make any sense. The sister of the troop, the Mexican, as they called her, who died, is upset by this. She says, wow, I don't appreciate how you were exploiting my sister's death for politics, hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for President Trump today. That's in response to The Atlantic. And a dude that worked for The Atlantic by the name of George Conway responds to the family member of the deceased.
Jesus.
Who was a center point of this story.
Are you serious?
Go ahead, Charlie.
All right. George Conway said, no one is exploiting your sister's death here. This isn't about her. It's about Trump's sociopathic behavior. He displays it publicly and privately, and his contempt for anyone else's lives, including those of men and women in uniform who made the ultimate sacrifice, is apparent to anyone who chooses, unlike you, to open their eyes. Wow.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No.
Saying that to
My God.
This isn't about her. This isn't about her. The person who we talked about in the beginning of this super popular article. It's not about her. You know what it's about? It's about winning an election. Open your eyes up. Okay. It's about this election, not about your deceased family member. Okay. I can't.
Who we are lying about.
Even if you disagree with the person, I still don't think I'd come back and tell the person's sister that they needed to open their eyes and that this wasn't about their sister that was dead.
And
this is about something else.
And then we're not exploiting your sister's death here.
Yeah, okay. Contributor for The Atlantic. Man, I forgot to align these so you can't see the whole thing. See how it's all the way to the left here? So it's not hitting in the screen on the recording right now. Mark Meadows says, I was in the discussions featured in The Atlantic's latest hit piece against President Trump. Any suggestion that President Trump disparaged Miss Guillen? Guillen? Maybe? I don't know.
Gillian,
I don't know. Or refused to pay for her funeral expenses is absolutely false. He was nothing but kind, gracious, and wanted to make sure that the military and the U.S. government did right by Vanessa and her family. There we go. And we don't have to play this video because we're getting long in the tooth right now, but it's the video we played yesterday of Kamala Harris's press conference where she was so struck by this report from Kelly that her campaign probably directed to happen. She was just so disgusted by this that she had to hold a press conference to talk about how dangerous it would be for Trump to be the president, as if she doesn't do a whole bunch of campaign events every single day. This was a serious press conference. He vowed to be a dictator on day one. He's going to use the military against American citizens. His former chief of staff said he wanted generals like Hitler's. And you got to believe all that. Super true. It's very, very true, for sure.
They're not the ones trying to protect, the deep state.
You can listen to us go off on this on yesterday's episode because we spent about 15 minutes on this 3-minute video yesterday. Those are the dumb.
Time to vote.
That's
a lot of dumb.
I can't give you any more dumbs than that. Those are the ones right there.
We had more.
There were
more. We just don't have time to cover all of them.
All right. Number 1, Kamala Town Hall. Number 2, Joe Rogan, worst person ever. Number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers picture is likely AI. Number 4, groping a minor. Number 5, steal targets. Number 6, waltz to libertarians. Number 7, government efficiency. Number 8, $1.84 for gas. Number 9, Musk and Russia hoax. Number 10, puberty blocker study. Number 11, Obama on freedom. Number 12, October surprises.
This is a tough vote. I'll be honest with you.
There's a lot. It's a lot of stuff right there. Get your votes in.
If you're listening right now on the podcast and you're like, man, I really would like to vote for some of this dumb stuff. Well, have no fear. You have the option.
You do.
All you got to do is go to joingml.com or godhatesfeds.com, because he does. And right there, you'll see the link to sign up. That'll get you access to vote.
It's only $7 a month.
There is a paywall.
Even for all of you federal minimum wage employees, we're only talking about taking
less than an hour. Less than an hour.
Well, after taxes, I guess.
Well, no, the minimum wage is $7.25.
Yeah, it's $7, but then after taxes,
keep a quarter.
Probably like $5.
Keep a quarter in your pocket.
But then, if you're making that, you get money back anyway. So
you're
$7.25.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay,
it's less.
That's right.
Less than an hour's worth of work.
See, this is available for everyone, whether you're on a living wage or not. If you can't survive, you can still pay for this.
That's right, and that's just a month. Less than an hour's worth of work.
We're doing that for you guys
for a month.
Okay, can't put food on the table. Let's talk about it.
How many hours of content do they get?
A lot. Several.
I mean, do the math.
It's about 20 episodes a month.
If you do the math, you're paying 0.00001.
Actually, now that we got new guy Josh in there, like 24, episodes every single month.
Anyway, this is a long explanation to tell you that is the economically viable choice.
It is
to sign up. You're not going to get this kind of entertainment anywhere else.
No, definitely not.
JoinGmail.com. Go to all the links to the sponsors in the show notes to support them, and they help support this show.
Yep.
They keep a couple lights on and a camera running, I think.
Yeah, the other one has issues.
And we need them to do more. And so for them to do more, they need more from you. You see how this works?
Yeah.
And so that's one way to support.
And the winner is...
October surprises.
The October surprises. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on Liberty at Night on the Free Talk Live Network / Good Morning Liberty, which is on your favorite podcast app. 1,393 episodes so far. That was Dumb Bleep of the Week. Go to joingml.com if you want to be able to vote every single week in this poll. See you next Tuesday.
Was Santa generous? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. You can sell gift cards you're not using at cardcash.com and giftcards.com, where you can also buy discounted gift cards for almost anything. If you're planning a major purchase, consider buying now because prices are rising. And if you see PMI on your mortgage statement, that's private mortgage insurance, which you can cancel if your principal balance is below 80% of your home's value, which it may now be.